Hey guys, how's it going? Thought today, jump on this stream, do a little character creation. I have a campaign that's about to come to an end. How's it going? And so we're starting to think about characters for the next campaign. And the DM's not quite sure yet. He's really excited to run Descent into Avernus. But we're not sure yet. That's one possibility, a heavy possibility, but not 100% yet. So I'm not quite sure what I want to play for that campaign. But in case we do something else, I thought about maybe making a ranger campaign, which I thought might be interesting. And I think it would be. I'm thinking dwarf. Mainly because I haven't played, frankly, a lot of dwarfs in 5e, surprisingly. I think the cause for that. I think the cause for that is specifically that the way that their bonuses, at least until Tasha's came out or Hornkind's came out, that allows you to sort of like remix the ability scores. They just didn't really have ability scores that worked for most of the characters or the builds that I was trying to make with them. So I haven't played a lot of them, so I'd like to remix, and I'd like to play a dwarf, especially because, as I was thinking about it, I was like, this may be the last straight up 2014 style 5e character that maybe I play for a while, right? Because we have new books that are coming out later this year, and I'll probably start making characters out of that for whatever those next campaigns are. So this may be one of the last PCs I actually end up making, at least for this part of 5e for a while. Can we make a decision whether it's going to be 5.5 or not? I mean, they say it's going to be backwards compatible, but they always say that. So Wizards has always said that whenever they make half editions, which they've done for every edition D&D they've made. So and those claims are dubious at best. Those things don't really work together like they promise. So I'll probably end up making new characters with that. So I think this one's going to be specifically kind of focused on really kind of this sort of almost like a victory lap, sort of, I guess, for 5e. So I'd like to play a dwarf, and I'm thinking ranger, because I do want to build a Beastmaster ranger, but I want to use and I already ran this by the DM, running a sidekick instead of the Beast Companion, as the Beast Companion rules are written, because they don't scale very well. And we've been playing with that DM, we've been playing with the same sort of setup, because we do have a sidekick character that's been in our party, and so we've gotten the feel of sort of what those characters feel like all the way up to what we're 11th level right now. So got sort of that feeling as to what that should naturally feel like, and it's been really easy. The characters are really easy to run because they're not spellcasters, so it's been a breeze, really. So excuse me. I figured if I'm not going to play a caster in the next campaign, then it might be fun to think a little bit more about the control and the build-up, and what you can kind of do with a little bit more potent beast for Beastmaster Ranger, because I think that's going to really help to smooth a lot of things out. So I think that's what I'm going to build today. But I also want the focus to sort of be on how I sort of build those backstories, so whether or not I use this character, kind of like what that might feel like. So when I show up to the game for session 1, I already have a good feel about who the character is, and sort of what they care about, and things like that, their motivations. So I thought we'd go through that today. So this is, in a way, sort of hypothetical character creation, but that's fun in its own way. Let's go ahead and hop over. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, I'm just checking something real quick. I had this. Okay. Let's do this. There we go. Alright. Can't really quite see that guy. Move this over. Nope, let's grab him right there. Kind of get the little dice portion over here. We'll be able to see a little bit easier. Let's do fat heads in the way. It's going to be as small as it gets. Okay, that's alright. We will sally forward. We'll be fine. Alright, so the first thing, obviously, the most important things when it kind of comes with the character creation, at least in 5e, is sort of the ABCs, right? You've got your ancestry, your backstory, and your class. So kind of already know what ancestry or race that I kind of want to play and what kind of class. But don't really know the ability scores yet. So start off with the ability score. So you'll see that I've got the character creation notes up here at the top. I've got it sort of broken down into sort of the 4 different layers, sort of like childhood and adolescence and apprenticeship and adventure. So really kind of focused on sort of that first part, like young years up to like maybe 7, 8, something like that. Adolescence kind of going up through, 12, 13, etc. Moving on to apprenticeship, which is sort of the teenage years, sort of that figuring out what that background element is in 5e, and then adventure is sort of like the transition from being that thing that you trained in to be your sort of like vocation or whatever it was, and how you got to being the sort of like level 1 adventurer. That's sort of the in-between area, or that section could be longer if you guys are running a campaign. You're going to start out like level 5. You might want to put more in the adventure. Kind of give you an idea of sort of like the sort of adventures you've been on before this point. And give you a lot of sort of all this is in here to give us a lot of sort of potent fuel for RP sort of right off the bat, things that we can kind of talk about with our character that our character cares about. So we'll be using this along with some question prompts and sort of the This Is Your Life sort of section of Xanathar's Guide to kind of flesh out this. First thing is that let's get our round of stats. So let's get I guess let's get our first 6. All right, 5, 4, 6, 5, 1, 2. Not too bad. Not too bad. All right, so what am I gonna do? All right, well, where do we want to sort of appoint these? Well, I guess I should have been clear whether we were going to use 46 drop or not. I was kind of assuming that, but you know what? That would give me an unfair advantage if I wanted to do it that way. So, just for ease of use, because I'll roll it the same way everybody else would, we'll just do them straight. Alright, so we've got an 11. Put these up here. Just kind of drop those in, and then we will... see what these. Go 2. And then 1, 5, and 3. Alright, let's roll our next set. Hopefully a little bit better. 13. Nearly 8, 9, 10, 11. Also 11. I'm actually not a huge fan of rolling for stats. Just because it... Actually, I don't know where they come in. So, it's going to be important for us. Because that'll be important to me when we're sort of like dropping them in, because I'm going to take these numbers and then I'm basically going to drop them in here. So each of those, one of those 4 dice corresponds to one of the sort of 4 life sections. And so this adventure part at the end is sort of like where we do that replacement, the drop one. Replace with the higher one usually. Maybe we can have a sort of bullet point that talks about like sort of how they grew, how they became better at that. Alright, well we've got 2 11s so far. I just don't like the most rolling because it's so swingy. Really. Because you can have a very different play experience depending sort of on one roll of the dice that you do at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of a campaign can really impact a lot of your ability to play and what you can play really quickly. Well, that's not great. What do you know? Another 11. 6, 4. Alright, and let's see, that is 13. 6, and 3, and 3, and 4. And we got one more. Let's see, 14. And 4, and 5, and... So those stats are... yeah, there. I mean, it's going to be nice to have probably an 18 out of the gate. This would be probably one of the good dice rolls, like what we ended up with, our array, 11, 11, 17, 11, 13, and 14. This is an array where I might look at taking something like the standard human rather than the variant human, because you're going to get a +1 bump to 5 out of your 6 stats if you do that. Which gives you basically 2 extra bumps than you normally would with the new character creation ability score rolls. But I kind of said we're going to play a dwarf, so I'll kind of go with the dwarf. That is the plan anyways. Alright, let's put this guy back down there. Alright, so let's look at our sort of appointments here. So, we'll kind of assume this first column, this 222165, kind of tells us specifically their capabilities as a small child. Like, what were they good at, what were they maybe not so great at? And we're kind of looking for sort of like the outliers, 5s and 6s, and the 1s and 2s, which is everything in this one. But we also need to determine where we're going to appoint those. So we're going to play a ranger, so it kind of makes sense to put probably the highest stat there, right? Or what's going to end up being the highest stat. So for us, that's probably going to be the 17. Right, so we're going to know that 17 is probably going to go in Dex, because I don't think that I want to build a very I don't want to build a sword wielding. Do I? No, I don't think I want to do a sword wielding sort of dwarf, a sword and board dwarf. I think I'll probably do a classic ranger that uses either a crossbow or a bow. I mean, we could go strength. That would probably make more sense for a dwarf build, especially since we get a lot of bonuses for some of that stuff. So maybe we should do a strength build. Alright, let's do that. Let's do that. I changed my mind. So we're gonna do that. Alright, a 14 and 13, which are our other big ones. Obviously, probably gonna go into wisdom and dex. Well, we could always do a heavy armor build, right? Because don't Remember, don't Rangers get heavy armor, right? I think. Oh, only up to medium. Which means, now I'm trying to remember. I remember what the bonus is for medium armor for our decks. So if we want to decide to do that, a maximum of 2, so we'd only ever go up to 14. But we could get that right out the bat and not have to worry about it. Okay, let's think on that. So I think I'm going to put that 13 in dex. Yeah. Not in the right document. That helps a lot. Alright, so 13. So I guess that means let's put the 14 in wisdom, because we'll need that for spellcasting. I don't expect the dwarf to do a ton of spellcasting, but it would be nice. Well, I could always just put an 11 there and focus specifically on support spells. Thing is that all the sort of like rangery stuff is kind of wisdom based. And there are magic items that are a lot more accessible for they're for strength and constitution. So maybe that. Yeah, let's go 14 there. Alright, and then we'll put the constitution will be 11. That kind of fills out everything else for us. 11 and 11 on the first one. So, yeah, kind of, I mean, we kind of ended up, he's going to have a pretty good strength, which is going to be nice. Have a strong boy in the party, if we end up playing. That's always nice. But, alright, that is that. So let's go down to, since we're just doing the stats right now. Yeah. Let's go into childhood. So, things that we want to note. So I guess we should just do 5, 6. I'm just gonna put these over here so they're a little bit easier for us to see. Dexterity, we decided to go with the 13, so that's 3, 3, 4. And Constitution, 2, 1, 5. That's just the top one. 3, 4. There's a modifier, which is 14, so 4. And our last level, which is 1.6. So usually when I do these, and this is going to be really interesting, at least for the first round, it's usually that I want to focus on things that happen in that childhood slot, the sort of that first column. And usually 3 and 4 is I consider sort of average, right? 3.5 on d6, sort of average acumen, and then 5 and 6 are like, oh well, they showed some sort of talent in that area as a small child. And then 1 and 2 is like they were a little bit behind the curve on that. So we're gonna have things to say about our dwarf in every section in this one because it's 2, 2, 2, 1, 6, 5. So no 3s, no 4s. All right. So what do we want to say about the string? So sort of a some sort of weak child. So they were sort of weak. We can figure out something for that. Sort of weak, but very dexterous. And actually, what we can do is maybe it'll be easier to do that. Think about just sort of ways that they show, a small child might seem kind of weakish, like. You look at sort of like the skills, like athletics, like maybe they. So maybe tree wall climbing. Right. something that, because they weren't very athletic. But they have maybe they were able to start walking very soon. We'll say early. Kind of freakishly early. Constitution. Let's say coffee job. So had a lot of kind of a sickly kid, a lot of cough. Let's say teased for being a little dumb. Being a little dumb. But we can also frame that some way, like maybe something kept them from education. It could be access, it could be like maybe they just had friends, maybe they just played a lot of hooky at school. Like it wasn't something that interested them. Like we're playing a ranger, so it might make sense that instead of spending time in sort of like an education facility, like a primary, elementary kind of situation, they were always sneaking out because they'd rather spend time, you know, running around in the woods barefoot, you know, doing that sort of thing. It's a very sort of Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer kind of feel. Let's see. Which would make sense if we do the high wisdom, right? So, maybe we do that, right? Affinity for, we don't want to say nature because nature's technically an intelligence. We'll say nature for right now because it's just kind of a holding spot. But nature is technically, because I don't want to say wilderness survival because it's weird. Maybe an affinity for animals. That's sort of like animal handling, because that's also wisdom. But let's think of it in that context. And then last one, maybe some kind of a. We're gonna say that they had a really bad haircut for Muslim charisma. Maybe they had like the classic bowl cut. Maybe got teased a little bit, right? Didn't have a lot of social interaction as much as other people. And that kind of gives us an idea about, pretty quick, about sort of like what this character's sort of like basic childhood upbringing kind of feels like. And on top of that, we can also use the Santhar's Guide. We'll do that. So we're going to go step by step. And so I'm going to use the digital version rather than the book, so that way you guys can see what we're looking at as well. Let's go down to the This Is Your Life section. So we could do sort of like the parents and the birthplace. We can do some of these roles as well. And actually, I think I'm going to start this one. Because these are going to be a little bit more important. Alright, so we have a D100 right off the bat. We're sort of our parents. 47. Alright. So, okay, good. We know our parents. Like I said, we're going to play a dwarf. That's pretty much my plan. So we're not going to have to worry about half-elf or half-orc parentage. Or tiefling parentage. Birthplace. This is one of those roles that they added in here that I'm not sure is super important. I don't really see this one actually come up often, because most of the time it's a really boring thing, right? Like your home, or places that it makes sense that a child is sort of born at. Right, like home of a healer or midwife. Okay. It's not really that's not really anything that really gives me anything to chew on as far as sort of like RP is concerned. unless I want to make that healer or midwife like a really important NPC and sort of like my overall background to this character. But I don't think so. Again, like if we were playing somebody who might have the medicine skill, well, I don't know, we might get a herbalism kit or something. We'll see. Maybe that will make sense. We'll have to see. Let's keep moving on. Alright, so, sort of like where they're born. I'm gonna wait to do siblings in sort of the next one. Well, let's do first let's do sort of the family role on here. I really like that this is your life section of Xanathar's Guide. I use it all the time. Xanathar's in general is probably the book that I actually use the most on both sides of the table, both as the DM and as the player. Just one that I think has a lot of really good information packed into a relatively small package. It's definitely one of the resources I turn to most often in 5e. Alright, so let's do our family. I just don't like the organization of this section. It doesn't quite feel right to me. Alright, well, I rolled a 15. Alright, paternal or maternal aunt, uncle, or both, extended family, such as tribes, clans. So, did not seem like we grew up with our parents. So, which one of those do we want to grow up with? An aunt, an uncle, both, or extended family? You know what? I'm gonna... There's 4 here. I'm just gonna roll a d10 and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. A 4. Okay. So that would be aunt. Is it gonna be high, low for paternal or maternal? All right, paternal aunt. All right, so it does tell us that we've got some absent parents. See, this is another one that I think is really weird. Like the birthplace has a D100 chart, but absent parents, which happens really often in these tables and in D&D characters in general, there's only 4 possibilities, which I wish there were more. Let's see. Okay, let's go with maybe father. So we'll do this. So father disappeared. Unknown fate. Well, that's going to be a backstory plot coupon for our DM. And apparently our mother abandoned us. Okay. Well, not exactly a super cheery start. And I guess we could do sort of family lifestyle while we're on the page. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So, modest household. Let's say, with. Okay. Very cool. Alright, so that kind of gives us quite a bit of information about this character already, at least in their sort of like early childhood years, and again, that's basically birth to about 9. So, sort of before adolescence, so basically sort of their primary sort of growing up. And now we know quite a bit about them. We know that they were kind of sickly. We know that they, had a bad haircut and probably got teased for it quite a bit. So maybe that's why they didn't go to a lot of school, spent a lot of time out in the woods, but they were also not particularly athletic, so they ended up falling out of a tree and hurting themselves, like breaking their arm or something like that. They are known for, they've got a pretty good balance. They started walking very early as a baby. And they have the affinity for animals and spending time sort of in the forest. Seems like a pretty rangery background. Probably also got a little bit teased because they know their parents, but they're not around, right? One of them disappeared to an unknown fate, and then the mother abandoned us. So I'm thinking that this obviously is not from birth, probably. If we know our parents at least a little bit, that means that we have to be at least a few years old, right, to kind of get into that headspace. Oh yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun trying to get this all in together. But it gives us a lot of sort of basic information really quickly about this character. And right, none of this is like, you can throw any of this information sort of like at a DM for a new campaign or adventure for a new character, and they're not really going to bat an eye at any of this. And we can kind of condense, as we just saw me kind of do, condense all of this information down to maybe like 2 or 3 sentences, to give us basically that vibe. Again, probably not going to mix in the born at healer or midwife, just because it's not particularly important for a for an RP perspective, I don't think. Unless that healer or midwife was maybe the aunt. So maybe not, but I don't think it said, because I think there is a, where is it? Home of a family friend. But am I just missing it? I don't think there is one that says home of a family member. So that healer midwife could be that paternal aunt, kind of combine those into one person really easily. Oh, how would they sound and act like? I don't know yet, because I don't know. This is only the childhood area, so we have 3 more sections to kind of fill out. So I'm not really sure what their voice is going to be like. But unless something really changes, like, we know that their stats are pretty mundane, so they're going to seem relatively normal. But we could do things like, they might be really obstinate about climbing trees now because they have a lot of strength, and they're probably gonna be trained in athletics. So they're gonna look for opportunities to like climb things, and they're gonna be kind of stubborn about choosing climbing as an option, or scaling things, or being the person who sort of volunteers for that sort of stuff. So that kind of give us that sort of like role-playing cue for something like that. Right? Maybe they have feelings about being abandoned, right? Or being pushed away, right? So maybe they're not particularly charismatic, but maybe they kind of take a long time to sort of trust people. Something like that. Because they always have this sort of, this nagging childhood, anchor that kind of drags them down about, well, you can't get too close to people because they'll end up making fun of you and things like that and pushing you away. Yeah, well, we're getting to it. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, so we have our adolescents, and well, we're already looking at Xanthars. I guess let's just do Xanthars aspect of it real quick. All right, so let's do, right. We're just up to get everything. So we did our parents, birthplace. Did that. We did our. We haven't done these. All right. We did our absent parent. Let's do our number of siblings. We could end up with a lot. I've definitely ended up with a lot before. It's pretty easy to do. Alright, so it's a D10. Let's find out how many siblings we have. 1d3, okay. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Alright, so we have 3 siblings. Alright, and then we can roll a 2d6 to kind of figure out their birth order. 3 siblings. So the first one is 4. Alright, so the first one's older. Alright, and we got a younger one. Alright, so we have 2 older siblings and 1 younger one. Older, younger. I like siblings and friends for backstories. Kind of gives you a nice, easy in for like talking to people and having reasons to go to places DMs can sort of pick from. Really fun to like use siblings and friends as people who send letters to adventurers to ask them about stuff, whether that's an adventure seed or give them news of things happening back home, or just sort of like checking in to see if they're all right, that sort of thing. Kind of fun. Kind of makes the world a little bit more robust with a kind of a very small amount of work from a DM side. All right. Well, we did our past appearance, we did our family lifestyle. And we know where we grew up. So we've done everything there. What else we got over here? This is another one where it's kind of weird. Like, how do you work the family with the childhood home and family lifestyle? So if I'm raised by an aunt, but let's say I ended up being, wealthy, and a wealthy aunt, but why would my childhood home ever be on the streets or a rundown shack? Or right, that makes it kind of weird. I mean, we can play off of it, like maybe ran away from home or something like that, but it is sort of a weird table. What was our family lifestyle bonus? Modest, so nothing. Okay. So D100. I mean, it's unlikely for that to happen, but it can happen. And D100 with no modifier. So 36. Encampment or village in the wilderness. Okay. So that makes sense. World. That is not a word. There we go. Yeah, I'm definitely. It's definitely hard. When I was certainly growing into the hobby very early on, right? I feel like a lot of people don't want to put out things like siblings or friends and things like that, because it's very easy to come across like game masters or dungeon masters who kind of penalize you for that, right? They're going to basically hold those family members hostage. But as I've gotten older and I get more comfortable with the DMs that I play with and picky about choosing the DMs that I play with, I feel a lot more confident about putting that in there. I mean, like I want the availability for them to be there to use those characters if they want to, and trust that they're not going to just abuse the crap out of it and use it to basically strong arm the party or my character into very specific adventures, especially if they do it time and time again with the same or different ones. Alright, so childhood memories. So I think what we'll do is that we will... No, that makes sense, I think. I'm trying to think of... I was trying to decide whether I wanted to do childhood memories in adolescence or friendship, but let's do it here, because we don't really have much else going on except our siblings. 3d6 plus our charisma mod, which is a whopping 0. So 3d6. Oh, 5. Alright, yeah, I spent most of my childhood alone with close friends. Alright. Yeah, that makes sense. Right, and this dovetails very nicely into what we already set up for sort of like their lower childhood, right? Their younger childhood. And now, right, we're seeing that reflected back at us, which is great. So, kind of a loner of a kid. Maybe they're a bit weird. right? Because none of this tells us anything about really their personality yet, so maybe they're a bit weird. I mean, they're a little socially awkward. Can't be too bad, because we still have a 0 as far as our total charisma is concerned. But we are maybe a little bit of a weird kid. Alright. So let's look at our stats. So we're looking at the second number now. So strength. Strength 6. So definitely sort of, we'll put in here that they had a nice sort of growth spurt. And muscle development. So definitely one of those kids that just sort of shoots up during a growth spurt during their adolescence, right? During puberty. Which, in its own way, can help you get ostracized from the communities, from your peers, if you're like a head taller than everybody, right? You start looking not like them, and so you kind of get pushed to that periphery socially. Constitution. Again, very sickly. Let's say I had a bad... sort of like a bed-ridden illness, like a scarlet fever, cholera, measles kind of thing, like... They got really sick, and probably took them weeks, if not months, to recover out of that, and the effect that has sort of like on your body. Again, not really helping with the whole having friends thing, the whole charisma aspect either. All right, intelligence, standard. So sort of on 3 and 4, so I usually don't include anything like, oh, they felt like average kids of that age. Same thing that we'll do for wisdom. So on those areas, very straightforward. And then charisma, charisma's a 1. So maybe they had what do we do? We could do sort of a they had maybe a they had a bad patchy mustache. That's funny for a dwarf adolescent, I think. Like I say, start to develop sort of facial hair that you get that very young teen sort of patchy facial hair, which not super attractive. Well, so right now we're making a level 1 character, because I believe that this campaign will start at level 1, and if not, I can always bump him up to level 2 or 3, which is kind of the basic starting area, so shouldn't take very long. But if I remember correctly, I believe the DM said we're going to start from level 1, so just building level 1 right now, and then I can always up them if I need to, and add, if I want to add more stuff to this sort of adventure section based on that, I can do that later on. Alright, so that kind of tells us about sort of like their sort of adolescence. We should probably learn a little bit more about their siblings. I think that actually comes up in the next section where those tables are. So we'll knock that out and figure out a little bit more about our siblings, maybe a little bit more about our paternal aunt that we're growing up, our aunt that we're growing up with, and maybe we can find out a little bit more about our parents before one disappeared and one abandoned us. And then I assume also disappeared. It's generally how that works. So 2 disappeared parents to unknown fates, 1 who specifically abandoned us. So it's cheery backstory. Sounds very usual. So here we're looking at ages about 10 to, probably 13. Really those real strong sort of like young teens, sort of puberty sort of age, or a lot of your sort of, especially sort of like your social and physical development kind of happen. Right, that's when you start, being a teenager and trying to figure out who you are as a person, and all that joy that comes with that for you and everybody around you. To go through that struggle that we all do. Yeah, kind of a tragedy. I mean, honestly, they all kind of work like that. That's been sort of my experience. They tend to build relatively tragic characters in some way or another. Which is great, right? It gives you a ton of feedback for how you can maybe roleplay that character, what's important to them, what's not. Clearly, somebody who's sickly, spent a lot of time being sickly as a kid, our character's going to have some very probably specific feelings about things like disease and maybe things being clean, and germaphobe kind of mentality potentially, which is going to be could be very interesting for a character that spends most of their time in the wilds. But maybe they know a lot of sort of like folklore healing kind of herbal remedies or something like that. Like, maybe we'll get that herbalism kit. That'll be really, really helpful, I think, if we get that. Alright, so let's move on to apprenticeship. We've got the character open, so let's just focus on that. Alright, 15. Alright, so... And I guess we can determine what we want that apprenticeship to be. And I don't think I have notes for it. I might have to go. Yeah, presumably it's going to be for a ranger. Yeah, that is the plan, so. Could make for a very interesting character. Alright, so sort of, I'm going to say, another way, strengths really only... So we'll do this. So we don't really know what it's going to be, but we're gonna add in some sort of like manual labor. So we don't know exactly what the apprenticeship is. That's going to be sort of like the background area for this character, which I may pick one, I may make a custom one. I tend to make custom ones just because backgrounds are one of the easiest things in the world to homebrew. So I may do that. But even depending on what it is, I do think that there's going to be some sort of manual labor involved. It's kind of building muscle and strength at time. Let's see. All right, so that was our strength. Our dexterity, pretty standard with that 3. Constitution. Yeah, I mean, for, let's say, building strength. And stamina, so. It sounds like sort of like whatever this apprenticeship is, a good portion of it kind of helped them to get relatively physically healthy and fit. So, interesting. So instead of, I'm going to put activity. I don't really know, but it's going to be some sort of manual activity that builds strength, stamina, so it might be something like a lot of walking and climbing, or maybe they were a porter. That would be a really interesting apprenticeship, as being sort of a porter or like a teamster, something like that. That makes sense for a ranger as far as background. I kind of like that. I'll put that in there. So. Porter or teamster? Question mark? We can take out that guild artisan background. That'd be a really interesting one, and kind of tweak it a little bit for a porter or teamster. Be kind of interesting. Maybe I could give them sort of like well, they would get the guild membership. I was thinking I could also give them maybe like a far traveler kind of thing, or maybe something that's a little bit more like the sage background, because if they end up being really well traveled, being like, oh well, I know a place that we could get information about that, just because they've maybe been on the road a lot. All Alright, so we've got something for that. Our intelligence, 3, very standard. Not left to right. Wisdom went up. Okay. So what's a good one for us to do for wisdom? So we kind of did... Oh, is that right? I think I always forget that medicine is technically a wisdom skill and not an intelligence skill. I always get nature and medicine flipped. Because I think that medicine probably makes more sense for it to be intelligence-based, and nature makes more sense to me to be wisdom-based. And I think it has been that in other editions and other games. And so I often get those confused. So yeah, let's do... it could be perception, that would make sense with the porter sort of aspect. Could double down. We kind of already did animal handling, but maybe we do survival. It kind of makes sense, kind of gives us an idea. Insight would be interesting. Or we could do medicine. Yeah, let's go with medicine. So showed an aptitude for medicine healing. So if we go with the teamster thing, like maybe they're the one who sort of like takes care of the health of the animals, make sure that they're able to do the things that they need to do. Not quite like a farrier level, like vet level veterinarian, but somebody who knows some things, like knows how to, you know, make a salve or something for that, for like rubs from like straps for the animals or anything, binds like that, you know. Any problems they have with their hoofs, things like that. Yeah, no, I totally understand the argument for nature to be intelligence. I think that works for any stat, though, or any sort of skill, for the most part, if you want to go with the sort of book knowledge route. I tend to think about nature as a wisdom thing, because it's a lot of common sense things. Like, that's a very sort of growing up with people who are in and around sort of much more closely tied to the land than most of us are today. And there's just some sort of like basic knowledge things, like, hey, don't eat these berries, you know, they're not good, they will make you have diarrhea. And I think of that as more of just a common sense kind of thing rather than a studied kind of thing. And so I think that somebody could acquire that wealth without really studying it, like formally. Yeah, I think about medicine as being a sit down and study kind of thing for the most part, right? There's a lot of experimentation and like learning that way. So yeah, I agree that I think that medicine makes a lot more sense for sort of observing and diagnosing and treating, and a lot more than just first aid, right? Understanding like inflammation and infection and all those sorts of things. It's sort of basic medical practices. Right, so it makes more sense as an intelligence thing to me. Alright, so we have our high, and then we got a good charisma score. So it could be during this time that, you know, it's sort of like they lose sort of like the baby fat during this time. Right? If we're going, I was kind of assuming male, so probably male dwarf. So they lose that sort of baby fat, so their face gets a lot, sort of like, their face and their body gets a lot more leaner, muscles get more defined, obviously. They sort of stop looking like a boy and start looking a lot more like a man. That sort of thing. Especially so that we have that coupled with like their strength and stamina improving, like, so physically, yeah, they're getting chiseled. Exactly. This Ranger's ripped. Not really. We can tell about these stats, and not really. He's okay. in most things. But yeah, we'll go with lose the baby fat. So, you know, take on a more manly look. Let's say and sound, right? Maybe a person who has this voice drops kind of later. It has now that nice sort of like baritone voice. And so that is that. Let's go on. Let's go back to the first guy and see what other ridiculous things we can come up with this character. Alright, so we did our family lifestyles. Did our memories. Alright. I guess it's time for us to sort of pick a background. I mean, I really like the Teamster one. I don't really know why we would not pick Teamster. Or maybe, do I just want to include it as Porter/Teamster? I guess it'll depend. We're gonna need to choose some skills, I think. So, this is when we're gonna actually need to start looking at class and ancestry race information. So, let's kind of determine what our background's gonna be. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna put this right. Put these at the top. So we'll do question mark. I don't know what it is yet. So we'll do skills, proficiencies, and feature. All right. So let's look at skills. So what I want to do is let's look at we have rangers because we don't want to double up on skills. We can, like, it's not a problem, but because it just gives us the ability to choose any skill. Alright, so what's going to make most sense for us for a ranger? I think it makes sense at this point to do the animal handling, the athletics, and the I guess survival. So like I said, nature is sort of an int skill. So I think it makes the most sense. Let's just look at the stats real quick. Because we get 2 for our background. So let's just... what would be 2 good skills for us? That makes sense for that background. I'm thinking animal handling and medicine. But I could also see survival too. But I think that makes maybe more sense for the ranger class side of things. And so let's do medicine. Perfect. All right. So that'll be our go-to right now. Now we get 3. So not animal handling. So athletics, insight, investigation, nature, stealth, survival. I think survival. I think stealth. Well, I know, our guy's not going to be particularly good at stealth anyways. And he's probably going to be wearing medium armor, which is going to give him a bonus to it. So he's not a sneaky kind of ranger. We kind of know that because we decided to do a melee build. So I'm thinking survival, perception, and maybe insight? Like maybe he's kind of critical of people. Maybe. I think that makes sense for somebody who deals with a lot of people when they run across people in the wild. And feeling like they really need to be able to like get a read on somebody whether this is a dangerous person or not. So yeah, let's go with insight, perception, and survival. So we can just go ahead and put these in here. Insight, perception, and survival. And then we'll put this. Let's put it down here. So insight, perception, survival. Perfect. Alright. So you also get 2 additional proficiencies, which are going to be between tools and languages. That's what I'm thinking of. Tools and languages. Let's see what else they're going to get. They don't get any additional language proficiencies. And they do not get any, I think, anything off the bat for... I'm trying to remember. I don't think so. I don't think they get anything right off the bat, yeah. Would I take herbalism? I might take herbalism kit. It kind of goes with the medicine background. Herbalism kit's kind of weird. There's not a super ton crafting wise to do with it, other than just sort of use it to make potions. Because of course we don't really have a lot of sort of actual crafting medicine sort of information for 5e. We don't have very good rules for that, or very robust ones. So yeah, I could take that. So we're not going to get any additional sort of proficiencies as far as toolkits or anything like that from our class. Not like thieves' tools or stuff like that we might get from... Come here. Oops. Anyways. Just knock something over. I'm pulling up my handy-dandy DM book because I know what's in here is I have a list of all the proficiencies. So something that would make sense for Gamester. Let's see. Alchemist, brewer, calligrapher, carpenter, cartographer, cobbler, cook. Cook might be fun. We haven't really leaned into anything like that, but that could be a fun one. Like that would make that's a very valuable skill to have traveling on the road, is having somebody who can actually cook worth the crap. Glassblower, jeweler, leatherworker, mason, painter, potter, smith, tinker, weaver, woodcarver. Wait, do we get any from being a dwarf? Just straight up? I want to say yes. I don't know if that's right. Linking problem. Let's go with dwarf. Combat training tool. Yeah, so we're gonna get one for being a dwarf, just straight up. Oh, disguise kit? Yeah, disguise kit could be interesting. If you want to do more of a sort of, like a ghillie suit kind of disguise kit, like that could be really interesting. That could be interesting. I think you'd have to have the right campaign for that, and I don't know if we're going to do specifically that campaign. But I do like that idea, using the disguise kit, and maybe instead of trying to pretend to be another person, try to use it to camouflage yourself. I do like that idea. If you wanted to do that instead of survival, but it would be the same check as my survival probably, which usually entails things like that. I do get a tool proficiency, so smith's tools, brewer's tools, or masons. So I knew that we grew up in a village in the wilderness, so I don't think that that's going to be a smith or a mason. So I think it kind of strong arms us into brewer's supplies. So let's add that. And let's put here. Let's go bad. Let's go ahead. So we'll put it actually before that. We're gonna put ancestry and heritage, or race and sub-race. Right, we are sort of changing the dialogue on that. So just trying to get used to using the new words. I know it's race and sub-race has never offended me, but it's not about me, right? I'm not the one who's offended by it. So we're gonna get, let's say, brewer supplies. Right, because there's always people brewing stuff in the wilderness. I'm not gonna need that. get stone cutting, and we are going to get common and dwarvish, obviously. So we're going to get... I wish in most campaigns there either wasn't common or common wasn't as common, because it kind of makes speaking another language not as important in most D&D campaigns. Unless you are doing some sort of research and you have to read something that's like written in Old Elvish or something like that. In general, just kind of communicating with people, you don't really need these, which is unfortunate. So it doesn't get a lot of play, so it's not that important for me usually to go get, because I'm not playing a very researchy character, to get additional languages. So probably want proficiencies in something else. Let's see. Yeah, we could do some of the kits. I could give myself one of the vehicles. It'd be interesting to have water vehicles. Just to have it. Because you don't need it until you need it. Yeah, well, if it's a teamster, it'd make more sense to have land vehicles. So let's do maybe... Let's do... land vehicles. And then I'm stuck on the other one. I'm stuck. So land vehicles, and I was thinking carpenter or wood carver tools, whatever would be used best for sort of repairing those things, but cobbler tools maybe for boots too. The fact is that probably neither of those will end up coming up, but it's nice to think about. So maybe we want to do, maybe there's one that's more like entertainment, like the games. Maybe if I did like... Yeah, let's do dice and land vehicles. Why not? So we're gonna do land vehicles and dice games. So yeah, let's go with our sort of quarter teamster. And then we need a feature. Probably guild artisan. Right, I think. Yeah. Yeah, but I think guild artisan, let's just look for it real quick. Let's look at their feature. So there's some sort of artisan. So we get sort of a guild membership. Yeah, so let's just do that. Let's go with a... So we are in good standing as a Teamster Guild member. And let's just say maybe this is one guild, right? Porter and Teamster Guild. might also include things like stevedores and longshoremen. Maybe, I don't know. Potentially. Alright, I think that kind of does it for apprenticeship. Let's keep going. Oh, let's see. There's something in here. There's Guild Artisan. Should we roll on the Guild Artisan? This is the why you became a Guild Artisan. Yeah, I mean, why not? Let's see. I can always roll the d6, and if I don't like it, we just won't use it. That's always a possibility. So let's do that. In fact, let's roll 2, and if I don't like either one, then I'll just forget about it. Apprentice to a master who taught me the guild business. Okay. Wanted to get away from my home situation and start a new life. That sounds likely. But I could also be apprenticed to a master who taught me the guild's business. How much... I grew up in a modest household, so not... really. You know what would be really helpful? What would be really helpful is knowing the occupation of our paternal aunt. Which there is one in here. I think it's under supplemental tables. There it is. Went right to it. The occupation table. Roll some dice. 45. Farmer, herder. Let's do 80. I think there's probably an 80% chance that they are... if they're out in the wilderness, that they're more likely to be herders than farmers. So on a 1 or a 2, they are a farmer. Okay, no. Okay, so some sort of herder. Let's go up here. We're gonna put one here. So, herder. Which makes sense with sort of like his animal affinity and stuff. So, is the fact... so then, did he not want to be apprentice? He's got 2 older siblings. Plus, we don't know how many children our aunt particularly has. Even though it appears she is unmarried, or husband or partner, or whoever they are, is deceased or separated, or it sounds like it is a single mother situation. I think with 2 older siblings, they're more likely to take on the family business. So, I guess maybe we should just ask, did they kind of push us towards an apprenticeship? Try to get us an apprenticeship with somebody else? I'll just ask an oracle question, so if it's 11 or higher, the answer is yes. Yes, okay. So let's do that down here. So aunt got us our apprenticeship. It's our class. Yeah, so our aunt basically got us apprentice. To some teamster. Yeah, exactly. That I mean, that's what we're considering, right? Yeah, I mean, I think because at least one, if not both, of the older siblings are more likely to take over that, or be involved in sort of the herding business, that I think there's not really a spot as far as for our character to really sort of step in and have sort of a role in that sort of occupation for the family. So I think it's definitely a second son, sort of go out and do your own thing. So got us apprenticeship to a teamster, you know, people that sort of travel around, because that's probably the only people that had the option to, because they kind of live in this sort of remote wilderness village area, as far as we can tell. So the only people they probably see coming through are probably traveling caravans for the most part. And so got us apprentice to, let's say that, let's say a caravan master. Or sense. And then kind of grew up with that, and then got apprenticed into the trade. So we're just making a custom background is what we're doing. We're not using one of the we built a custom background. That's what this apprenticeship is. So his background's going to be Porter Teamster guild member, basically. So he gets 2 skills for that. He gets animal handling and medicine. He gets 2 other proficiencies. We decided to take land vehicles and dice games. And then the feature we pulled from the guild artisan background, which is he'll have guild membership, which allows him to sort of find lodging, get jobs, take on roles in caravans, or even lead caravans. So that was what he was doing before he became an adventurer. So he left home, apprenticed to do that, and then at some point, which we'll figure out, he kind of transitioned from dealing with trade caravans to being a full-time adventurer. So yeah, go with that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about his personality yet. But you are right. It doesn't seem like he. It doesn't seem like he's sort of like a. Probably because he had a lot of sort of low charisma stuff, that he didn't really have a lot of opportunities to sort of like step forward and, you know, be a leader kind of thing. So yeah, I don't think he's a very pushy character. I think you're right. I think he's kind of a more mellow character. I think he's maybe, you know, he tries to move himself away from conflict rather than push through it. I think he tries to moves away from it. Right. Oh. So this would be in our adventure thing. So we do this sort of like, why did we become a certain class? We can do that. But first, what I want to do, let's get before we get into that, let's figure out our last tier. So this would be the number if we replace something. We do that here. So strength. So we did something as we were sort of like becoming a ranger. Some sort of feat of strength. I really wish we had sort of more options for strength, but there's not really a ton. We have basically athletics. I kind of want to say maybe something with swimming, or I mean, it's a strength one, so we could say that maybe he broke like a local guild record for carrying weight. Kind of fun. So for carrying weight, which makes sense. I mean, this is gonna be a character who's gonna end up with like an 18 strength. They are significantly stronger than most people. Even though I don't think we actually trained in athletics, did we? Oh. No, we certainly did not, but we are naturally stronger than most people. Interesting one. Dexterity was pretty standard, so I mean, technically we swapped that out, but not by much. I mean, it changes 1 point. We sort of swapped out something for Constitution, but it wasn't really notable. Same thing for Intelligence. No really swap on Wisdom, and then an upgrade on Charisma, but just kind of normally. What's what we do? Let's say, not business acumen, let's say negotiating skills. Skills improvement. Which is not really skill as in trained proficiency, but more just he got more negotiating skill improvement, let's say, just through experience. Just kind of naturally a little bit better at it now. He's spoken with a lot of people, a lot of different types of people, so he's a much better sort of conversationalist than he used to be. Because he's dealt with a lot more people once he became sort of like, as part of a trade caravan, right? You're going to meet a lot of people in a lot of different places, a lot of different cultures, right? So became a much more, brings him back into basically what would be considered average sort of sociability, I guess. That's what you get for being a ranger. Alright, so we are a ranger, so let's see if we come up with if this is going to give us a good reason. Again, I wish some of these tables like these were a little bit more than a d6. You can only use these like 2 or 3 times before you start running into duplicates when you're making characters. So you may have to get a little inventive. You know what we could do? We could try out. So Mike Shea over at Sly Flourish put out a video pretty recently, from the time of recording this, that talking about rolling twice on tables and combining the results to make any of your supplements like a lot more robust. And that's something I've done naturally for a long time, either rolled twice and combined, or rolled twice and pick one. I just, right, something I just started doing. I didn't really think about, oh yeah, that's actually really useful, and we don't normally talk about that. So let's do our rangers. So let's roll twice and see if we can combine them. Alright, so that's a 3 and a 3, so that won't work. A 3 and something else. 3 and 6. Alright. Suffers from terrible wanderlust. But their background kind of already does that, unless maybe they were stuck on one specific sort of trade route, and they got bit by the wanderlust bug and wanted to go do something else. Sucker for a shiny bauble or sack of coins. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm thinking in my head. I should think out loud. So I like sort of, oh, wait, I was reading the background for the road. Never mind, let me reread. I served in an army learning the precepts of any profession. No, because we didn't take the soldier background. So that's not going to work for us. Let's see if they'll give us something else that we can actually use. That's another 3. That does not help me. 4. I've seen what happened when the monsters come out from the dark. I took it upon myself to become the first line of defense against the evils that lie beyond civilization's borders. Yeah, so... I'm not sure that those combined really well, but I do like both of them for a different reason. I don't know if greed's something this character's really got with them, but they are relatively young at this point, right? Very early in their adventuring career. I'm trying to think. So they love the traveling aspect, but they've also seen the horrors that sort of befall people who can go traveling across the wilderness. So they're sort of leveraging their abilities. They learned in the caravan to be sort of a fighter, basically, to fight, monsters and bandits and things like that. And if that's the case, man, if that's the case, it would make sense that maybe there's just, I'm trying to think of why their motivation would be that if their motivation is greed, like they want to make money off of it, or if their motivation is it's the right thing to do, right, because nobody else is really filling that role, and I have the abilities to fill that role. Maybe that makes more sense. Oh, how often do I stream? I stream about once a week, usually during this time. So if you're watching this, for me that is early on a Saturday. So usually during that time, usually during this time, you can jump in and catch me. And then of course all these live streams and all the streaming that I do gets put on the YouTube channel, so if you ever want to go back and watch any of that old stuff, that's all there and available. I'm doing a very long solo RPG stream. We're playing it, we are coming up on, what, our 32nd session of it? So it's been fun. It's things are coming to a head there. Things are coming to a head for sure, which is great. Loving it. So yeah, I think for this character, I think it's going to be the choice here. I think it's, naturally strong, learned fighting in caravan. Became a ranger to, basically guide people. Protect them crossing the wilderness. Now, this assumes that my DM's not going to turn around and out of nowhere throw a urban campaign at him, because obviously this character is not going to work for that. But like I said, this is kind of a backup character for that campaign anyways. Because I don't think I would take this character into a Descent into Avernus campaign. I don't think this character makes sense for it. But this would, for a very sort of like standard high fantasy, go to dungeon locations and do that. Like, I could definitely see him making the transition to being hired by expeditions of player characters to get to a specific place, get to a dungeon, and he's sort of the hireling. And then he's like, actually, you know what? I think I can just do this for myself. And sort of grow into that. There's the wilderness and adventures. And let's say serve as an adventuring hireling. Because he'd actually be a really great hireling for adventurers bring up. Look, he's got animal handling and land vehicles, and he's got enough armor and arms capabilities that he can, you can leave your horses and gear with him when you go into the dungeon. He's going to be able to protect them. And so at some point I think he's like, why would I get paid a daily wage when I see these guys pulling out chests, full of gold coins, and I'm getting like that much of it? Why don't I just do this for myself? So I think that's maybe, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself with the questions, but that does seem like a very appropriate path for me for this character. So I think, yeah, he gets a little renown, right? He gets known. His negotiating skills improve. He builds up basically a good reputation as he sort of transitions from apprentice to journeyman as part of sort of like the caravan guild. And then he's able to leverage that into doing things like helping out adventurers and then just being an adventurer. It's, probably a little bit more lucrative. But yeah, I think this is telling us, because of sort of who he is as a ranger and his sort of background, is that I think he does have a soft spot for, protecting people who get themselves into a dangerous situation, especially in the wilderness. And, he's definitely not a person who probably does a lot of cheating and stealing from people, but is definitely willing, much more willing to help people when they're in a pinch. Even if he gets nothing out of it, right? The sort of enlightened, humanistic kind of view. Alright, so that's that. Alright, we need to do some life events by age. So, how old is our dwarf? That is a good question. I guess let's just roll on the table. We'll figure it out, right? And then I can figure out his actual dwarf age later. 82. All right. So so our guy is 48 years old, or equivalent of being 48 years old. Let's put this down here, so just sort of for age. Get that in there. 42 years old, which means he gets a D8's worth of life events. I wish we use more like healing dice rather than just straight one numbers, because you can always end up like being a 80-year-old character who's got one significant life event, which seems kind of sad and sheltered. It doesn't really make sense. I think it makes more sense to have a guaranteed one per every 20 years of your life. So actually, you know what? I'm just going to do that. So that means 4, and then there's a likelihood of maybe 1. So let's roll a d20. If I roll a 1 through 8, then we'll have another one. Okay, there we go. So we are actually going to have 5 life events. Life events. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we got a big D100 table for life events, and since we have 5, we're probably gonna drop each one of these into one of our sections here. So we'll have this one, or sorry, not there, but one in sort of like early years, one middle, one in his apprenticeship, and then maybe one as an adventurer, and then let's see what we roll, because I'll need to stick an extra one somewhere. So let's figure out what they're going to be first, because there'll probably be a natural grouping that'll make sense. D100 rolls 97. Okay, arcane matters. That's some magic stuff. That could be really cool. $61. Oh, start the game with some extra money. Yeah. Working job. Related to background. Plus 2d6g. So we're gonna get some extra gold. Okay. That's not really a life event, but that's okay. Maybe we'll go back and change it. 58 is the same thing. Uh, 69. Oh, the same thing again. And 34. Oh, made an enemy of an adventurer. So we already got some drama there. Alright, so we made an enemy of an adventurer. Roll a d6. So we are not to blame for the rift. Alright, so those are always fun. We did this, we ended up in a in similar situation for the solo RPG stream that I've been doing is that we've come across her is that main character, main PC for that solo adventure D&D solo adventure. We did all this background stuff, and we found that she had made an enemy of an adventurer, and that she was, I think, to blame, but not in a relatively innocuous way. And now met up with that NPC in real life, and then had to ask for that NPC's help. And they have slowly sort of rectified their disposition with each other. But it was a nice little sort of source of tension to have, and then have to sort of like come to that person to ask for their help, which was a lot of fun to sort of like RP and think about trying to persuade and convince that person to help you when they do not like you. Alright, so do we want to keep these working jobs? I don't really love these. I mean, that's a lot of extra starting gold, but it's also starting gold. In the grand scheme of things, I'd much rather have like an actual event that's important, because those are really more like placeholders. 25. Fell in love. Married? Question mark? Maybe, maybe not. 20. Oh, gained a boon. And let's do one more. 38. Oh no, we made an enemy of a different adventurer. Oh no. Love it. Okay, are we blameless again? No, we're to blame. We are in fact to blame, please. I wonder what we did. That'll be interesting to sort of figure out. All right, so yeah, these are some interesting ones. Let's I almost want to put this like made an enemy of adventurer in the apprenticeship area, like when he's trying to learn his job and stuff. You know, pretty common adventuring D&D trope that at some point you're going to be like a guard for a caravan, especially in the low levels. Like I feel like maybe he screwed something up, and now he's getting blamed by this adventurer, rightfully so. But they're holding a grudge, right? They're more than a grudge. They're in fact an enemy. But then we need to figure out what the boon is and what the arcane matters are. So obviously, fell in love. Probably not going to go in this birth to 9-year-olds section. I think they're still very much in a the opposite sex is yucky kind of phase. Not really thinking about those sort of things. So, but maybe once we get into adolescence, right, with their bad patchy mustache. Oh, it could be a terrible, terrible unrequited love, like just the deepest crush, which is cute and very sad at the same time. Or maybe somebody got learned very early with sort of like the caravan and getting outside sort of like the only people they've known most of their life, and instantly head over heels for somebody. That could also be fun. But yeah, before we do that, I'm going to take a short break. I need to refill my coffee, take a little bio break, and we'll pick up from there, and we'll get this figured out, and we'll keep going. Lots of fun. Hang in there. I'm going to be back real soon. Okay? Bye. Alright, let's head back in, got my coffee situated, and let's move on. So we need to start off and figure out what these arcane matters are. We need arcane matters. Alright, so it's D10. Should we continue what we've been doing? Should we roll twice and combine or choose the better, whichever one we like? 5 or 3. Found the spell scroll. And succeeding in casting the spell it contained. That could be interesting. Or witnessed a powerful spell being cast by a cleric, druid, sorcerer, warlock, or wizard. That could be interesting. I could see both of those being... Thing is that, other than this, there hasn't really been anything that's really arcane focused. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna go with found a spell scroll. And succeeded in casting the spell it contained. Alright, thing, spell, from scroll. Which means that's probably something from the ranger spell list. I'm not sure if we need to figure out what that is right now. Probably not in this stream. I'll probably figure it out at some point when I start. So I'm going to outline the background, but I'm not going to write the background. Basically, I take this and then just kind of basically make it into a narrative form. Very simple. Like I'm not trying to write a novel. I'm trying to keep it relatively compact while basically hitting the main things and then kind of providing a little bit of contextual detail for it. So that's sort of a sinew that's going to kind of hold all these different disparate parts together, kind of make them feel like a cohesive thing. Alright, so we gained did we get married? I mean, our dwarf's a little bit older, so maybe 50-50. Okay, so got married. Ooh. Are they still married though? Is kind of the question, right? Are they still married? I don't know. Should they still be married? I don't think so. I think that cleaves just a little bit close to I had frankly a very similar character build before, in the fact that it was a dwarf and a ranger and was somebody who was married, or the PC was, and had that sort of wanderlust. So I don't want to play the exact same character. So I'm thinking, my question is are they divorced or are they missing? So let's just ask. We'll do an oracle question again. Are they divorced? No. Okay, so they're not divorced. Are they missing? I think that there's probably a high likelihood that there's some absenteeism here. So +3. Yes, okay. So we have married, missing spouse. And let's go back to origins. So, oh, there we go. Parents. It's down here. Absent parent. Alright, so we'll roll a d4, but we're going to re-roll ones because we know they're not dead. Missing spouse disappeared to unknown fate. Wow. So now we've had a spouse and at least one parent that has appeared to some unknown strange fate, and a mother who abandoned us and is also in the winds somewhere. Are they linked? Question mark, question mark? I mean, it's unknown to us, so we don't really have anything that we can sort of put in there. But we'll just add this in here. Connected to missing parents? Question mark? And then we'll put this in here. That's right. That's going to be for DM to decide rather than us. So if it's supposed to be unknown, we're going to keep it unknown as far as my perspective is for them. I'll give that information to the DM and they can do whatever they want with it. Alright. Let's go down. Oh, we need a boon, right? Getting ahead of myself. Yes. We need a boon. So D10, 2D10, 6 and 3. 6. You found something interesting. You gain 1 additional trinket. Okay. 3. You found a riding horse. Well, that's much more valuable. I like those things together. Right? Find a riding horse with a strange trinket in it. Like, completely empty saddlebags, except for, and it is in one of the saddlebags, like, otherwise, like, no gear, no nothing, no, like, it's saddled, but no sign of the rider or any of their gear. It's just in one otherwise empty saddlebag, there is this one trinket. That could be fun. You know what? I had another character with the same DM who also rolled, I think, this exact same boon. And had a horse. So I know he will probably be okay with it. I don't really need to worry about it that much. Found riding horse with singular trinket. Bag. Table, which is in the PHP. I'm trying to remember. I think that he may actually have it. Interesting trinkets or mysterious trinkets? How about 2 of each? There we go. Alright, so we can have a scrap of folded paper containing a message. Every time it is folded and unfolded, the message changes. A miniature trident with fade pattern inscribed on it. I don't really like that one. Yeah, but maybe we could... Yeah, probably not going to be able to connect any of these. A spoon that alters the contents of whatever is being eaten. It varies from person to person, but using the spoon over extended periods of time begin to alter the appearance of the person eating from it. Okay, interesting, but I don't know what I would do with that. A hobo gold piece, where the face on the coin has been carved into an elegant skull, a guild symbol etched on the back, and saying in thieves' can't carved across the edge. Oh, I do like that. I actually like the hobo gold piece. That makes a lot more sense with our character's sort of background. I think that makes a lot more sense than probably the other thing. I like the scrap of paper. Like, you can see that maybe this is a scrap of paper that's actually invested with somebody's or some creature's soul. And so that's sort of their stream of consciousness, like every time that you're opening and closing it, like you're just getting snippets of what they're thinking about. Definitely not the spoon. But I really like this hobo gold piece. And I think, based off of the current campaign I'm playing with this Daemon, I think he's really going to like this one as much, because we already have messed with a little bit of a sort of a underground smuggling trades thieves guild kind of situation. So I think he will be able to use that. I think he'll find that a meaty thing. Oh, right. we said the trinket was in the saddlebag. Okay, no, I still like it, though. So, there we go. So instead it's a Thieves Guild sort of note. Well, we just had a guild symbol, so it will put down here. Assassin? Just because it's in Thieves' Cant doesn't mean that it's necessarily a Thieves Guild. Like, do we find just the horse of somebody who's been killed? and not the actual body? That would be interesting. Yeah, I feel like a DM could definitely take that and run with it and figure out an adventure completely based around this situation. And bringing it up. And be like, oh no. Like getting recognized for having somebody, an important dead person. You assume they're important enough to get assassinated. They're clearly their horse. And then having no idea what's going on, getting framed for potentially a murder, and then, you know, having this clue with the hobo gold piece, and following those clues too, trying to figure out the assassination. That could be really fun. I like the idea of that. That'd be a fun adventure. All right, we did make an enemy of an adventurer. What are you gonna do? All right. So we've got our classes here. This, of course, this is in Xanathar's Guide, so it does not include the Artificer. So what I'll do is I'll roll on the D100 twice. If I roll a double, it'll be an Artificer. All right, 80. So a rogue. It's not a double. So let's go with rogue. And we can just use the 69. Nice. Made an enemy of... could be a ranger. Made an enemy of a ranger. That'd be fun. Or a fighter. Let's go with a ranger. Like, a little friendly capitalist competition gone wrong, maybe. This other adventurer is holding a grudge about it. Like competing rangers for a job. That'd be interesting, and then able to get the one up on them, and then they're not gonna let it go. Well, we don't need to do cause of death for anybody. That's nice. It's always nice because we don't have anybody who's dead as far as we know. Let's use the occupation. Well, let me do the race tables first. We'll just use the race table as is, even though there's a lot of the weird races out now, as to do our adventurers. '52 elf. Alright, so we've got an elf rogue and a human ranger who, not particularly friendly towards us. Oh, it'd be really interesting. It'd be really interesting to... Now, of course, every time I get this stuff like that, starts getting, like, my DM side of juices thinking about stuff. You're like, oh, I can feel... You have, like, really early on, you have the rogue show up, and then, you know, an adventure or two later, you have the Rangers show up, and then, like, in the next adventure, they show up together with some others as sort of like a rival adventuring party on one of your adventures that you guys are sort of like jockeying back and forth to try to complete the same adventure. I could see that playing out and being a lot of fun. And everybody in sort of like this character's party being like, like, what did you do to these people? That they are bound and determined to ruin your life, and now our lives. But let's also do occupations. Let's do occupations for people. So we have a missing spouse. Presumably they did something, right? 71. Yeah, some sort of just labor. Alright. Put it in here. Let's go up. Where else do we need some other people in our backstories, kind of give them occupations just so we can kind of have a basic idea of sort of what they do. So we've got our siblings, but we already know what our aunt did, right? Yeah. But what about our parents? What about Daddy Dearest? Daddy Dearest, hunter or trapper? Alright, so we'll just roll again. Hi, it'll be trapper. Okay. So, Father Dearest. Old Daddy was a trapper. And what about our dearest mother? Back before she abandoned us. 27. Ooh, good. Oh, dear mummy's an old criminal indeed. Abandoned us to continue her life of crime. That's somehow slightly more tragic. Okay. So let's do our siblings. Older. What do they do? Presumably one of them's a herder, right? Alright, so I rolled merchant here. So, I presume that the other older one is the herder? Let's ask. Are they the herder? Or is it going to be the younger one? Oh, okay. So it's actually the younger one who ends up being the herder. So I guess perhaps this character and their two older siblings did not show any alacrity for in any ability for being good herders. We're just not very good at it. I guess not as good as the younger sibling was. Or went and sought out more lucrative jobs. Merchant is certainly there. 26. Oh, Artisan or Guild member. So let's say that they are sort of in the same area. So let's say that... I guess for herding animals, my initial instinct is probably sheep. Sheep or goats. So I'm going to say that this person's actually a wool merchant. So kind of keep them kind of connected, like everybody's sort of in the same industry a little bit. What would be a good guild member? I mean, he could be part of the Tanner's Guild, I suppose. Maybe it's like the shears. I'm thinking like maybe the Shears and Knife Makers Guild. So kind of a smith. And then our youngest is going to be a herder, so it makes sense that like everybody else is relatively connected. Because I feel like if I don't do this, and I've had this experience before, that you end up with just siblings who are just like all over the place and not connected to each other. So at least having this one trade kind of pulls everybody else together, and then it makes it feel like RPC is the one who like went off and did the adventuring, while everybody else is still sort of like in the same area. Like we have a older brother who does merchant. So maybe so with this, I wonder if like all of us got apprenticed into the same guild, and probably it's still in the same guild, or a similar guild with the caravan guild, and then sort of sprung away from it once they reached a big city, maybe? I don't know. Very interesting. But it does mean that probably this older sibling probably was pretty instrumental in helping us get apprenticed as part of the caravan guild, the teamsters and porters. Very interesting. Okay. I think that's it as far as occupations are. I don't think we need to do one. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that our missing spouse is probably also a dwarf. We could do the relationship tables, I guess. That's good. These are good. It kind of gives you a nice little starting point as far as RPing with those characters. A little bit about sort of like their relationship, which is really fun. So you can do things like, obviously it's pretty easy if they like each other, but you can also have, like, if they're hostile to each other, like there's some sort of beef, we can maybe figure out what that beef is. It can always be fun about have a little bit of extra family drama, so that way if the DM member decides to send letters or things like that, or be like, oh, well, my brother would only reach out to me if things were really bad because we are not on good terms. So this must be very important if they've sent me a letter. Something like that. So let's do... I mean, I think we already know these people are going to be relatively hostile to us. They're not going to be friendly to us. So, how does our spouse feel about this? This is a 3d4 table, which is a weird table. 5. Okay, they were friendly before they went messing. Alright. So, clearly we didn't have like a big fight, and then one of us stormed out, and then the other one never saw the other one again. The other one went missing, whether that is this character storming out or that character storming out. So we know that they weren't a fight. It was like they were here one day and then they were just gone. Just disappeared. Which is unsettling in its own way. Alright. Let's find out. And of course we can make more NPCs if we wanted to, like who did he apprentice to? But I don't think that's probably going to be important. We've got enough people to kind of talk to already. Alright, how do our brothers feel about us? Let's start with younger. 5, friendly. So on good terms with our younger brother, that's always nice. 9, friendly. And our eldest, 9, friendly. Good. I mean, good for this character. I'm not sure good for us RPing them. It's not going to give us a ton of information into us. What about relationships with sort of... Okay, so friendly. Friendly. And our aunt. Friendly. Okay. Alright, so no big family drama. And I just did this for our parents too. Which, I use this to kind of determine, like, alright, well, we didn't have, like, we have a particularly bad childhood that's maybe got a lot of trauma in it as far as our mothers and fathers and parental figures are concerned. So everything there seems pretty okay. Pretty happy upbringing for the most part. As far as family's concerned, right? There's still like the teasing and the okay. Actually, what did we break? Let's roll a d6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. Let's say we fell out of a tree while climbing. Surprisingly, didn't break one of our limbs. Instead, we broke some ribs. So maybe the landing wasn't the problem. It's maybe we hit one of the branches on the way down. Kind of, you know, oof. Kind of section snapped a couple ribs. All right, I think we've got a pretty good idea for most of this. All right, I don't think we need anything else out of here, do we? We didn't have any tragedies or supernatural effects. Oh, I guess we can find out. Let's yeah, let's use this crime table. What is Mummy Dearest? What's her racket? No, murder. Oh no, Mom. No. Let's see. Maybe we combine that with something. Oh, theft and murder. All right, now we understand maybe why Mummy Dearest abandoned us. So I'm thinking like a theft gone wrong and murder. I'm trying to remember the technical difference between theft and burglary. Removal of property. Okay, yeah, alright, so technically it would be robbery, not theft. Right, because violent theft of property or money. So we did a little robbery, we didn't do theft. I always second guess myself on that stuff. So I know that burglary means breaking in. That pretty much means B&E. This was actually a robbery. Robbery gone wrong and murder. Okay. We don't know. We don't know maybe the background on that. And maybe I'll leave that open for right now in case it ever comes up. We'll determine whether maybe Mother was not a long-time criminal. With 4 kids at home, I mean, and in a small village, she was probably, you know, do very sort of plebeian villager type of things, right? Do some work in the field, do a lot of work at home, raise 4 kids, and then maybe with our trapper father lost to some unknown fate, things get tight. It's hard to make ends meet. For whatever reason, it turns into robbery. You know, we said robbery gone wrong, but it could be we're thinking of our mother being the aggressor in that situation, but we could flip that and maybe make it more sense in that she was being robbed, tried to defend herself, and accidentally killed the person, and then went on the lam. That could be interesting. It could be fun. Nah, but I kind of want to leave that up in the air. If it comes up, you know, the DM and I can maybe have a conversation about it, or maybe we can decide on it. Because whether our mother is a full-time hardened criminal, like, you know, a career petty criminal, which would be weird in a small village, like people get catch on to that pretty soon. You wouldn't be welcome. Which is another reason why she could have abandoned us. Right. Or maybe, you know, she was doing her thing and then somebody tried to, you know, mug her and it didn't go well. For the robber, maybe she took their money because maybe she needed it, and who knows. Or maybe it's a frame job and maybe just whoever came across it later just lifted the money off the corpse. Could be a lot of things. Alright. So I think we're drawing in pretty close. We're going to have a really good idea about kind of who this character is, right? We're getting a lot of information about who the character actually is. So I guess, with that in mind, we should probably actually just build the character, right? We should finish this out, build the character. And, hold on, because I'm trying to remember, if you were good, really like that hobo gold coin. I'll have to use that again sometime. Because I don't think... Let me look specifically, actually, at Beastmaster Ranger. Because, yeah, I don't think you technically get the beast till 3rd level. Right? You technically... Right, yeah. You get spell casting before your sort of, like, subclass. Your archetype, your speciality. And I think that that's a little weird, that you get spellcasting before you get your animal companion. That does seem a little weird to me. But it does mean that I don't have to worry about the animal companion right now. Unless we're bumping up to level 3. So, I already had in my mind, I was wanting to do maybe some sort of, like a monkey or a baboon or something. I'm not sure. Maybe a New World monkey, maybe an Old World monkey. I'm not sure if I want like a large ape or like a small like lemur kind of thing. But I was thinking monkey, just to do something different. And I like the idea of having a companion that maybe has good digits for like holding things. Could actually maybe hold items and stuff. So I'm thinking something like an ape, but I guess something like a raccoon could work as well. Even though that would be a weird creature to sort of build up as a sidekick, as a warrior sidekick. I guess maybe I can make them an expert, but I think experts and sidekicks and Tashas have to be able to speak a language, which is one of the drawbacks. So I don't know. I'll have to think about that, but I believe we're starting at 1st level, so I've got 2 levels to think about it. So we do not have to worry about that. So, let's, I guess we're already here. No, let's do our races first. Let's forget. Let's go here. There we go. And we want ourselves a nice little dwarf. I may make some modifications. Usually you ask your DM for that, and that's a good idea, but I've been doing this a long time, and I've been playing with this DM for a while, so if I decide to make some changes, I will note them and then confirm with him later, if he's okay with that. And if he's not, I'll go back in. But say, like, this already kind of sucks, right? I'm not going to have the ability to wear heavy armor as a ranger, right? I'm not proficient in it. Because there's a lot of these sort of like ancestry things that you get and you're like, well, those are actually not useful, right? Same way that, right, their weapon training is not going to be useful because I'm already going to be trained in those weapons. So it's one of those things that sometimes I might ask for something like expertise, but I don't think he's going to give me an expertise in a specific type of weapon. That would be silly. Don't do that. It'll basically keep me way in front of the curve as far as attacks are concerned. But I don't know. He might be up for it. Maybe I'll list it as an option. But all right. They are considered young until they reach about the age 50. So we're still relatively young, I guess. If we're going by medieval-ish anachronistic sort of time frame, and we think that adulthood is kind of close to being maybe 15-ish, right? So if 15-ish is equal to 50, then yeah, so we're kind of like a older 20-something, kind of accurately. You know, if we're trying to tie it to sort of specifically to a human sort of life expectancy time frame. Yeah, somebody who's kind of like in their late 20s. So they've done their apprenticeship. They've you know, they've got some years sort of as a professional, like working adult in society, and now they're sort of maybe transitioning to doing something else. All right, so speed. Not gonna help us. I'll go ahead and put this down here. I'll put it here. We'll go ahead and we'll just start putting stuff around the character sheet. Why not? Why not? I think I'm just gonna. Yeah, I can't edit. That's okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually just put it up here. Alright, because I think we're good here. I think we can do this. There we go. Have a little bit. See things a little bit better. So speed. Does not help us in the slightest. We do have dark vision. Good to know, which is pretty much standard dark vision. I don't really need to put 60 foot. It's just standard dark vision. Is that superior dark vision? That's not superior dark vision, is it? Are there any races that can only see 30 foot with dark vision? I don't remember. We'll just leave the 60 foot. That's fine. Trying to save space. Trying to over-optimize myself. Alright, and we have, of course, combat training. And basically, axes and hammers, which is, as a ranger, we're going to already have proficiency in all of those. So, and we do have brewer supplies. Let's go ahead and put that down here. We'll go ahead and common and dwarvish. That's what we speak. We've got our tool proficiency. We've got stone cunning. So, as it's just a little shorthand for me, as history, as if they were an expert. Basically, that's what that means. Proficiency and then expertise for when they're inspecting stonework. Okay, stone cunning doesn't come up too often, I feel like. But also it comes up about as much as you want it to. I mean, I guess you can get every dungeon you go into or every ruin or thing you come across, you could always be like, I use stone cunning on the stone structures here to learn more about it. I guess technically you could do that. I am not sure what you would, but you could. Alright, let's see. So that's basically everything for dwarf. We do need to do our... I'm forgetting. Which I guess is tonight. That seems weird. Yeah, I guess I didn't have the information in there. Weird. I felt like it used to be in there. Maybe you took it out. Alright, so we're gonna do our ability scores, but we are going to use these. So we're gonna make ourselves that. I guess I should say +4. We've done 18, so we're gonna do the +1 to 3. +2. That'll be a 14. +2 there. Our charisma will be a 0. Our intelligence equally will be a 0. And then we'll put that last +1 into Constitution. Make that 12. +1. Which gives a little extra hit points. And we're not lacking in any area, which is nice. We're a nice, well-rounded character, which is good. Yeah, we know that. We know the side. We know the speed. We know dark vision. Dwarven resilience. I did not. That wasn't on there, was it? Did I skip over that? I'm sure as heck did. Nerd. Let's see that. I can just write poison resistance. I know what that is. I know that I have advantage on those saves and resistance against it. That's the only thing I missed, hopefully. Alright. We did that. Alright. We got Hill Dwarf. Alright, Hill Dwarf and Hill Dwarf. We can get a kind of toughness, which is nice. I mean, it makes more sense than armor training, I suppose. Aren't there some other... Aren't there some... There's like gold, too, right? I'm not gonna do... There are. Just do it again. Let's see what they got here. Alright. I'm not gonna use an Eberron thing. Do we not have gold dwarfs in 5e? I can tell you that I played a bunch of 5e, but since before it was even officially released, and I do not remember if there are gold dwarfs in 5e. That's fine, we'll go with the toughness. It's fine. Come on. Gotta remember that we get that +1 per level. Okie dokes. Yeah, that's pretty much everything we need about dwarves. Yeah, they're just so... they just don't have a lot going on in 5e. That's kind of the problem. That's why I don't ever play them. Unfortunately, it's not like I really like dwarves, but just mechanically in 5e, it's a race that kind of pushes you towards sort of a martial class or sort of a mixed caster martial class, like cleric kind of thing, or paladin, or a ranger, and then it ends up like a bunch of their stuff not being very useful, Because you have Dwarven combat training, which is going to give you access to things that you're already going to have access to in most cases. And they're heavy armor, but there's a good likelihood you're playing a class that doesn't get heavy armor. So, yeah. Those are things that maybe I will ask. Like, it would be nice to have, instead of not having your speed reduced by heavy armor is pretty nice. But, it'd be nice to have it be something useful, like the Goliath's carrying, right, it's Goliath to get the updated carrying speed, right? Or updated carrying capacity. Something like that. Might make more sense for more characters. So these are the things that maybe I'll ask the DM about switching out, because they don't actually help my character. So let's go to our lessons. So we are going to play at least Master Ranger, but they're first level, so we're not going to worry about that. But we do need to put in the stuff from their background. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to play... You know, we're going to play Ranger 1. Ranger. Let's be a, let's say, well, we'll just put Teamster. Alright, and we're gonna play a dwarf. Technically a hill dwarf. Not that it really matters. Alright, so we've got those. Our Porter or Teamster background is going to give us animal handling. And it's going to give us medicine. Perfect. So it's going to give us land vehicles. And dice games. And we're going to get our feature, which is going to be guild membership. Actually, I'll just put it here. Membership. And I think we can probably take just the gear stuff that they tell us in there, which let's see. Let's do it this way. There we go. This is going to give us. We can probably take specifically the gear they're going to give us. And you can start with a mule and cart. Well, they've already got an animal, so we probably don't want 2 animals. So we did a set of artisans' tools. Our choice. Hey, we're going to choose brewers. Down here. Not technically related to our gilding, but that's okay. Guild letter. We get some traveler's clothes. And of course we get a lovely 15 gold, which is actually quite good. Always forget that this character sheet doesn't from the bottom up. We have a pouch. Because we might want that pouch at some point, so I should probably go ahead and put it in the inventory. Alright, I think that's everything we need for the background, mechanically. Yes. And let's go ahead and fill out our class stuff. Alright, we're going to have 10 hit points +1/+1, so we're going to start off with 12 hit points. Not too shabby. Could be worse. It's fighter level, right? Fighter or paladin level hit points. It's pretty good. Right, and we have a D10. So we have D10 plus 1. Because we don't get to apply the Dwarven Toughness aspect to our hit dice, unfortunately. And we have a big ol' 1 hit die. Put it in there to fill in that bubble later. Very easy. Our speed is 25. Constitution modifier. So we have armor, shield. Actually, I'm gonna do that. LM armor, shield, and we have simple and martial. We've already chosen our skills, so we get to start with some equipment. Scale mail or leather armor, probably scale mail. You know, you would think after playing 5e for so long, 10 years, that you would be able to know off the top of your head the bonuses for armor, and I still don't. I guess because how often we actually end up changing types of armor. So it'd be 14 plus his dex, plus 2, so he could have a 16 AC. Or a 13 AC. I'm probably going to take that one. We're going to have disadvantage on some stealth. That's okay. I'll just make a little note. Disadvantage. And we will give him the scale mail. Which is going to make his armor class 14, 15, 16. Nice. That's alright. Let's keep going. Alright, we're gonna get 2 short swords or 2 simple melee weapons. Again, I think... do I want him to be a sword and board or a 2-weapon fighter? This is gonna be a melee kind of thing. Or technically could be a big 2-hander. Maybe something that's versatile, in case I want everyone to do 2-hander. I mean, could go the traditional sort of axe or hammer route. Kind of lean into that tropey dwarven kind of aspect. Let's see what's under simple weapons. I don't really love short swords, and they've just kind of chosen weapons at random. So I may just swap those out. The short swords will get us what? So they're worth about 20. They are finesse and light. But hand axes are also light. We don't really need the finesse aspect. Well, let's look at some other axes. Like, I could go Warhammer hand axe. That'd be kind of interesting. I think I might do that. It's basically going to have the same GP equivalent anyways. And I kind of like that. It's still going to be 20 gold either way. So if I do Warhammer. And I am fairly certain that my DM will not care if I choose 2 different starting weapons that essentially do the same thing. The bonus is going to be, so plus 6 to hit. We know our proficiency bonus will be plus 2. And our hand will also be plus 6 to hit. That's all we need to worry about right now. Well, I mean, we'll have something else on there. So 1d8 or 10, because it's versatile. Plus 4. 1d6 plus 4. So with the 16 AC, 16 is sort of that weird spot. I feel like 16, 17, or 15, 16, 17. Maybe more 16, 17. In 5e, where you can get away with not using a shield in melee and be okay, pretty okay most of the time. But you're not going to be able to stand in the middle of everything nearly as good as anybody who's got an 18 plus AC. Because those are like your real tanky paladin, fighter, defender guys. Barbarian. Well, barbarians are not gonna have great AC. So we're not that, right? We are. So it is nice to have the opportunity to pull out the shield should we need it. But then also be able to do offhand attacks when we need it as well. With that hand axe. And it all feels very, very dwarfy. So I do like those. Get a Dungeoneer's pack or an Explorer's pack. I think. Your pack. Yeah, I mean, probably that. Let's do an Explorer pack. Because, yeah, I think I'm probably going to opt for something that's going to give me a crowbar off the bat. That's one of the more useful. If you haven't watched our extremely long video about Monday adventuring gear, you can always go check that out on the channel if you got a work day to spare. Unfortunately, it's very long. We can talk about having crowbars, one of the more useful ones. I will probably swap that out for Crate Tool. Again, I don't think that my DM will care. He has not cared in the past when we used it. If I have the money to sort of make up the extra. A backpack bedroll. Let's get to the bottom. Okay. I mean, it's the mess kit doesn't do anything, right? We talked about that in 5e. And then it's got torches, tinderbox, water skin. There's really no reason not to take the Dungeoneer's pack. So we'll take the Dungeoneer's pack. And I will just write out specifically what's in it. We've got a backpack. Crowbar. Hammer. Buttons. Batons. Torches. That 1 4 6 torches and 1 4 6 8 rations, water skin. Alright, we also should probably put our other stuff in here, so we're gonna get that Warhammer and hand axe. Man, can't talk, can't type today. It's gonna be one of those days, I guess. Alright, that's all our basic gear. Again, probably gonna trade out this crowbar. Again, in that mundane adventuring gear video, talk about swapping out the crowbar for something. Let's just open the crowbar. And of course, it doesn't tell me the price of crowbar. That would be useful. But I talked about in that video that I usually try to take a crate tool instead, which is this guy, or a box tool, sometimes it's called. One of these guys. which is slightly different. So it's basically a hammer, a hatchet, and a crowbar, and a nail pry all together. So it's one of those like multi-tool, you know, they've been around for a long time. One of those multi-tool kind of things that are just extremely useful. It's like if you're going to have to carry around the weight of a hammer or a hatchet or a crowbar anyways, why not do this? And I think the box tool. The only thing that I usually do is that, like there's an older one, is that I just tell them, the DM is like, hey, is it okay if I do this sort of like all 3-in-1 kind of tool and just pay 2 out of the 3 prices for it? And, you know, I've yet to have a DM tell me no, so, or just an incredibly mundane adventuring gear. More weapons, because I don't, even though I don't think most of these are on here. Let's see, crowbar's gonna be on here though. Crowbar is 2 gold. Pick and Matic is 2 gold. Right, so it kind of gives you an idea. So, alright. His hammer's 1 gold. So if I pay 3 gold, I can have it. So basically pay an extra gold. Right, I'll just deduct that right there. So instead of starting off with that 15, we'll start off with 14. And a longbow and quiver, because of course, we're a ranger. And actually, I'm going to take these guys. They actually usually do this here. This might look a little weird to you guys, if you haven't seen me talk about this before. So I like to use a resource die system, so even if we're not... I'm playing a game that doesn't track things like rations or torches, and like pints of oil for lanterns and stuff like that, I still do it myself because I think that's part of the fun of the game. And honestly, as you keep going on in the game, like the cost of replacing those things is nil. It's not like it's a burden. So it's about being prepared and thinking about the adventure ahead. But we do the same thing for, because we're gonna need that for arrows. So basically, everything will start off as a D6 every time that, for the arrows, every time that and this is something I stole from old Gamma World, is that every time, because it's how they use ammunition for post-apocalyptic guns, is that if you fire more than once in a scene, in an encounter, you're considered not conserving ammo, and so then there's the possibility that you're going to run out of ammunition. And so if I use more than one arrow in a fight, which is pretty easy to do, but it's also pretty easy to use just one arrow in a fight if you just use it in the first round and then swap weapons to close. But say if I use, you know, I shoot 4 or 5 arrows during that time, at the end of the encounter I need to roll a d6. If I roll a 1, instead of a d6 of arrows, I have a d4 of arrows. If I roll a 1 after that, the next time, it means I have literally 1 arrow left. So it gives you the ability where you can play a character and deal with things like the resource management aspect of the game that can be really, really interesting and a lot of fun to engage with, but not have sort of like the tedious bookkeeping of being like, alright, I fired 2 arrows this turn, so mark off 2 ticks of the arrows that I had left. Like, you don't, it's not that granular. Same way that, like, okay, you guys traveled for 5 days, knock off, you know, 5 little check boxes of rations, and that's how much you have left. So, just a little fun way to try to do that. Even if we're not taking care of it in the game, I'll still track it, because I think it's fun. And it gives me something to do with all the ridiculous money I'll end up in 5e as a character anyways. Alright, so we got that. Let's do saving throws, so we get strength and dexterity. With our skills, got that, we've got our equipment. Got that. Alright, favorite enemy. I think I'll probably take the option, but let's just read it out anyways, and I'll make the decision, alright? Alright, so experience studying, tracking, hunting, talking to a certain type of enemy, yeah, we don't really have anything in our background that's tied to one specific type of enemy, so we can make that up but or 2 races of humanoid. You have advantage on wisdom survival checks to track. Yeah, a lot of that just doesn't really jive exactly with what I'm feeling for this character. It also makes it really tied to one specific type. It puts all the... There's a reason why they changed this in Ranger, right? Is because it puts kind of all your eggs in one basket. As far as, like, you're really good when it comes to dealing with orcs, but if the campaign spends 90% of its time not dealing with orcs, because it's not an orc-focused campaign, then there's a large chunk of, like, your class features as a ranger that's not going to be useful. So I think the favorite foe option is probably what we're going to do. When you hit a creature with an attack, you can call on your mystical bond with nature to mark the target as your favorite enemy for 1 minute. When you hit the favorite enemy and deal damage to it, including when you mark it, you can increase the damage by 1d4. Number of times equal to your proficiency bonus when you finish a long rest. So 2 times a day. Yeah, I mean, favorite foe is a lot better. Okay. Shorten that down. And I'll just write it all out now because I haven't played a ranger in a while. But eventually I won't need to. I'll remember that. Twice per day. So this is basically... This is one of those funny things where it's like... When you listen to people do things like... Bash 4E's power structure, and you're like, this is literally just the 4E encounter power structure. Right? Like, this is just literally how this is set up. For 1 minute, so anything that you see when they say things like, you could do this for 1 minute, they basically mean for the fight, for the scene. Or until you lose concentration. Oh, I didn't realize there's concentration. That seems a little hard, but... It's not super useful for a melee character, then. Pretty useful for a range character, though. Yeah, I mean, we don't have the greatest concentration checks in the world, considering we didn't get the option to put proficiency in Constitution saving throws, which would have been nice. Alright. That's okay. And it'll go up, which is fine. Natural Explorer. Particularly familiar with one type of natural environment. Choose a favorite terrain type. Arctic coast. Alright, well, not the Underdark. Let's just get that out of the way. And we were kind of talking, like I said, I kind of want to do some sort of monkey or ape, so I don't think... I mean, maybe Arctic... I mean, there are some pretty forward north, like Hokkaido monkeys that are in the winter. Pretty dense winter. So maybe that. Probably not a lot of desert monkeys and apes, so or grassland. So we're kind of in Arctic forest, mountain. Maybe there's some... I mean, a forest just can have a swamp in it. Or some sort of wetland in it. So yeah, I mean, we're somewhere in the wilderness. Mountains would make sense, though we are a hill dwarf. I mean, it should be probably forest, right? I'm trying to fight against it, but it should probably be forest. So let's just go into it. Maybe I'll change it later. Maybe I'll ask the DM if that's going to be the more useful terrain to use, or if maybe I can find a way, maybe mountains can make more sense, or Maybe Arctic will. Who knows? But for now, we'll assume forest. Oh, goodness. And it gives you a bunch of stuff. So, proficiency and expertise. Because, yeah, that's one of the things is Natural Explorer just gives you a bunch of stuff, right? And it also still has the problem that everything else does. Wherein, right. You can't do... No difficult terrain. Slow down. You can't get lost by natural means. You're basically always remain alert. I don't feel like that one's RP'd very well. Like, I don't think that comes up very often. I like it, but the DM would have to make that useful for a game. And I don't feel like that happens very often. You're traveling alone, you can move stealthily at normal pace. It's a very good skill. Double your forage results. Learn exact number, size, and passing when tracking, which is very useful if you're going to run a game in which tracking is going to be important. Right, that's sort of the make or break for the ranger more than I think a lot of other classes. It's like, if you're not going to make like tracking down monsters and doing overland travel a large part of your game, then you can miss out on a lot of stuff with the ranger, right? Which could very well happen with the DM that we're making this for, is because he actually doesn't focus a lot on overland travel. But I think that may be this campaign's specific kind of thing that we're wrapping up. So there's not a lot of, it's kind of dungeon hopping. We hop from dungeon to dungeon and don't worry too much about the actual overland travel aspect of how we get from place to place. Other than, like, speed and time it takes. And the occasional sort of, like, combat encounter. Oh, right, there's Deft Explorer. I forgot there's also a variant for this. Or I could just get... So basically, the Deft Explorer one just basically gives you expertise. It doesn't tell you it gives you expertise, but that's also just what expertise is. Choosing proficiency to double for any ability check you make with that chosen skill. That's just expertise. Except I guess you could also take a feat to get expertise, and then Canny would still work on top of that, so they would stack. So you could be extremely good at a very specific selection of skill checks. I don't love Deft Explorer, but Natural Explorer is so fiddly. candy in general is just more... I get to make more choice in it, number one. And it's not tied to a particular landscape. That's fine. I will take Deft Explorer. And then it doesn't worry about, like, the terrain. Which is nice. So I basically just get expertise in something. It's something... Choose one of your skill proficiencies, your proficiency is double. Okay, so I just get expertise. What would he have expertise in? Animal handling... I mean, yes, but is that really a useful choice for us? Probably not. Just on sheer amount of checks? Probably perception, right? It really pays to be have expertise in perception. Like, you know, the most common skill roll in the game. So, yeah, I mean, I could have chosen something that would maybe be a little bit more flavorful, but it's hard to pass up something that is that functionally mechanically good. So I think I'm just going to use it. So yeah. Deft Explorer, which is literally just perception expertise. Alright. Nice thing is that I'm going to get it 2 more times. If we play the campaign long enough. If at all. Alright. And that's it for the first level character as far as the gear is concerned. Let me fill out a few extra things. Their longbow is not great. It's +3. Longbow is D8, 1D8 +2. I mean, it's nothing to spit at, but you know, it's not great. And then I'll just do this. Can I get rid of this? Yeah. That's fine. So we got our guild membership, our dwarven toughness, speed, not reduced for armor, combat training. We can figure out some other things right now, right? So we can figure out that our initiative bonus is +2. We do not get the option for a shield, but I will probably buy a shield. I don't need to look that up. I literally have it. Let's find out how much a shield costs. Shield costs 10 gold, so that's going to be most of our gold, but I think it's worth it. And I will have a shield. So I'll do that, so that means that our AC could be 16, but it could also be 18. Now, if this campaign... Another player has already sort of figured out what character they want to play next, and if that character makes sense for this campaign, they're going to keep playing it. I may have to worry more about being a sort of tough kind of frontline person, so I may end up having to switch to that board, which means when it comes to level 2, if I haven't figured that out, hopefully the DM will allow me to do something like switch from two-hand fighting to, which is probably what I'll take. Or throw style, that could be fun. Throw hand axes. But might let me change to something like defense or one of the others. Or maybe dueling. Well, let me do something that's not, you know, two-weapon fighting, which is probably what I'll take. Probably. Either that or thrown weapon. That's a lot of fun. And then that could definitely lean more into not using the longbow and using more sort of like throwing axes, which would be fun. I think that's a good flavor thing to have a guy that uses a warhammer can be very interesting, like, once he gets 2 attacks, to be like, actually, didn't, no, because you have to take your attack action first, right? To do an offhand attack, because I was going to be like, oh, we could throw the offhand weapon as the bonus action first, and then come in, and then versatile wield the hammer. But I think you have to wait till after, I believe the specific language of making the bonus, making an offhand attack as a bonus action says that you have to take the attack action on your, well, maybe just, bonus action offhand attack. I need to know the very specifics of this. Like, I need a light weapon each hand to take advantage of this. Is that true? I thought you just only had to have offhand. The other one has to do offhand. I guess because I usually use it with rogues and with those using light weapons in both hands. You know, that may be one of the things that I asked for. Instead of combat training. Since combat training does me no good as a dwarf, I already get proficiency in that. And I could ask him, like, hey, expertise, ADM? Let me get expertise in my attacks, which seems very, very game-breaking, especially very early on. But maybe just allow me to have 2-weapon fighting. It's like, instead, you just get 2-weapon fighting. Or the dual wielder feat. So yeah, could use the dual wielder feat or 2-weapon fighting. So yeah, I could take dual wielder. Yeah, maybe I'll just ask him if I can have the dual wielder feat instead. I think he'll be amenable to that. So I think I'll ask him for that. I think he'll say yes to that. Basically, because I'm not going to get... Having proficiency in 4 weapons that I already have proficiency in is not great. It would be either that or maybe give me proficiency for heavy armor, which would be also very useful. And I think he'd be amenable too, but also I don't start with heavy armor, so that'd also make my stat choices maybe different, because maybe I wouldn't have put such a high dexterity then. Because I basically put the max that we're ever going to be able to get out of medium armor. And I'm fine with medium armor for the most part. Plus there are other ways to get around the proficiency aspect of heavy armor, if I really want it. But considering I can already get myself to an 18 AC at level 1, through medium armor and a shield, that still puts me in a really good place as far as the defender's concerned. So I think, yeah, just being able to get the dual wielder feat is good. Nope, that's not what I'm looking for. There is maybe a similar feat for speed not reduced by heavy armor. You know, the thing that I don't have proficiency in. I think, yeah, I was just trying to think of a list of 5e feats. You know what, we've got Xanthar's up. There are some racial feats, right? Yeah. Dwarven Fortitude, Dragon... that's Dragonborn. Dwarven Fortitude or Squat Nimbleness. Okay, Dwarven Fortitude. You increase your Constitution score by 1. You can spend the dodge action in combat to heal yourself. That's kind of cool. That's actually pretty cool. That seems pretty rangery. That I like that. I like the ability. You take the dodge action in combat, so you're going to give up your 1 to 2 attacks and be like, but you can also heal yourself, which is pretty cool. Spend a hit die. That's actually pretty useful. I actually like that quite a bit. And it's not super game breaking. Basically allows you to just kind of heal yourself, but you also have to give up a whole turn. But it's a good thing to do if you don't have a potion, right? Because in this DM's game, like I think a lot of 5e people, we all homebrew it, so drinking a potion is a bonus action and not a standard action. It's only standard action if you're feeding it to somebody else. So having a feat in which I have to give up basically my attack output, my damage output to heal myself only once, which is really useful at lower levels and less useful as time goes on. So maybe not. What's the other one? So Squat Nimbleness. You are uncommonly nimble. Increase strength or dexterity. Increase your walking speed by 5 feet. Yeah, no, actually, I think I like Squat Nimbleness even better. And I think it makes sense for a ranger, for somebody who spends a lot of time knowing how to, as a porter and teamster, how to just distribute weight on themselves carrying things and on animals carrying things. Like, that's what they do. That's the whole point. Being able to walk 5 foot faster than most dwarves and basically keep pace with most medium creatures, like the people you would be traveling in a caravan with, would be extremely useful. They'd also give us the proficiency in athletics, which is probably what I would take. And advantage on any strength, athletics, or acrobatics checks to escape from a grapple, which doesn't come up that often, so I don't feel like that's super overpowered. The only thing that I would do is I would probably cut out that increased strength or dexterity by 1. I don't think he's going to let me get an ASI improvement out of it. But I do like Squat Nimbleness, which kind of does the speed not reduced by heavy armor, but in the opposite way, right? It just kind of improves my speed. Armor, get the Squat Nimbleness, and that kind of is into him having, you know, really grown up and really improved sort of that athletics aspect of himself and that natural dexterity and balance that he had as a child. Let's say that. So no ability score improvement, just the dual fielder feat, and as it is, which, right, proficiency in a thing that I can't use, but because I already have proficiency too. That'll give me expertise, but I don't think he's going to give me expertise in a specific weapon type, like a favored weapon. I don't know, he might. And is there any favorite weapon? There's a weapon, like a weapon master one, right? Yeah. Yeah, so basically it's weapon master. It's the same as a weapon master feat, without the ASI. And then I would just take basically the dual wielder feat, because that'll match with sort of the aspect. I don't know, maybe he would not give me the +1 AC. We'll see. I don't know. I'll let him maybe make that decision, right? It's a conversation. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a conversation. How about that? We've got 4 gold burning a hole in our pocket. Is there anything else that we... No, we got all our starting gear. There's not really a lot else for us to choose, I think, at this point. I think we are pretty much finished out. Because I need to ask for the updates on those things for him. So I think that's it. We got a very good idea. We'll do a rundown, one more rundown on basically everything that we did as far as the background's concerned. And then I'll just basically put all the glue together, type it up, and I try not to make them very long. Like maybe a page. Try to keep it under a page and a half at max. Try to just kind of cohesive everything, kind of push everything together and kind of make it into a literal story of what happened to them before they became an adventurer. So yeah, let's do that rundown, and then I think that that's going to be it for this stream. So, of course, if you guys like this sort of content, make sure to like it and subscribe to the YouTube channel and share videos with other people. That's the best way to help support me right now. So, do that. Let's do a rundown and kind of get a figure about who our character is and what their future's going to look like. So, we do know that he grew up in this sort of... He was born into this sort of rural wilderness village, kind of out in the middle of nowhere, right at BFE, and he picked up some brewing. He picked that up as a young child. I mean, home brewing's pretty common in that sort of anachronistic time period, so it makes sense that he would do that, especially if he was kind of colicky and kind of staying away from any sort of education, so he's either in the woods or at home, so he's maybe helping with that instead. If he can't go out and help with sort of like the herding duties because he doesn't feel very well, right? He's kind of sad. He's got a bad haircut, even though he has an affinity for animals. Right, he got some broken ribs, so maybe he picked up the brewing during that time period when he couldn't like get up and be out and about. So we know that he did know his parents, but sometime there in the first, dozen or so years of his life, up to 20, I guess maybe up to 20 years of his life, he lost them. Not as in they died, but as in dear daddy disappeared to some unknown fate, went out to do his trapping, and never came home. And our mother abandoned us, and I think I'm going to leave that intentionally murky in the character's mind. Like, people maybe don't want to talk about it a whole bunch. The idea that, and we don't know if maybe she's a petty criminal that accidentally tried to rob somebody and ended up accidentally killing them, or if she was the victim in that robbery and ended up killing the robber. And it was born the healer and midwife, right? It just doesn't... This one just really doesn't add anything to the story. So I'm just going to go ahead. I know it's in there, but I'm just going to go ahead and take it out. It's just not going to be important. It's not going to come up. Because we know that's not our paternal aunt, who was the herder who kind of took us in. So it was our father's sister who got dumped with us. So our mother did not dump it with anybody related to her family, if she has any. And, right, we live out in the middle of nowhere. We talked about that. Falling out of the tree with the broken ribs. Started walking very early. That's good to know, is that always had sort of like a keen balance, even from a child. A sort of grace, but was also really colicky, like kind of sickly child. And, they had that bad haircut. They got teased by their peers a lot, so they spent a lot of time instead with sort of like animals and out in the woods, and that's where they ended up, climbing a tree and then breaking their ribs. And sort of go on to being sort of that adolescent. And, right, they've got 3 siblings. They've got 2 older siblings. One who grows up to be sort of a, We know they're siblings, but we actually didn't determine whether they were alive, right? I think, where is that? Let's go. Because I think there's a, where is it? I thought there was a table that went specifically for this. That's okay. Oh yeah, because there's like a how are they doing table, right? It's down here. Status. I forgot to do the stats table. So let's do that for our siblings. Uh-oh, 4. Missing. No! We have more. We have more. Okay, I didn't specify who I was rolling for. I was assuming the older sibling. Friendly. Missing to an unknown fate. Oh my gosh. Our ranger may be cursed. They might just be cursed. Everybody around them keeps disappearing. Some dark secret yet unveiled. Oh no. Alright, we should do one for his aunt. Auntie. 15. She's great. Her aunt is doing well. Okay. So, really? She's doing well. Quite successful. Well, now that she's got, you know, that sort of vertical integration with, you know, her family members, helps probably a lot. 12, okay, so our other older siblings, fine. And our younger siblings, fine. So they are living well. Doing well. And their young is... Yeah. So clearly this our younger sibling and our aunt are they have a very strong bond. They're very connected to each other. And she has taught our younger sibling sort of the tricks of the trade and all that good stuff. We did it for our wife. Our wife is missing. Her spouse. I haven't discerned. Probably wife. I was thinking wife. But I may stew on that a little bit longer. Maybe we'll just leave it as spouse for now. Partner. Since I haven't made any decisions. Alright, so in adolescence, right? Older siblings, one was a merchant, went out, and we never saw them again. Well, that's awful. We have a lot of unknown fates. We're off in the wilderness. I wonder if there's like some horrific legendary creature that's somewhere near our village that just keeps gobbling up people. But they disappear without a trace, so maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something like a slaver, or maybe something that's got a really strong mind control, like an aboleth or something like that, that's just sort of like corrupting them. And, you know, our younger sibling's doing great, so that's good. So, right, we talked about that. Not a particularly social child, right? Clearly didn't get along with most of their peers. Spent a lot of their time alone. They didn't really have any close friends. I spent most of it sort of out and about, or in helping with sort of like the beer making chores, maybe those sorts of homely chores. And less, didn't spend as much time probably with the herding aspect. But also went through a pretty good growth spurt during that time period, the muscle development. But, you know, also had a bedridden illness. I'm going to guess the bedridden illness comes first. actually just going to go ahead and do these. And put these, spent most of my childhood alone with no friends. Because probably bedridden for a time, and then they had that awful mustache. Didn't win them any friends or paramours. And they had a growth spurt in muscle development, and started to become a lot more normal-esque, I guess. Then we got sort of, as they move into sort of that apprenticeship, which is again sort of like the young teen years. So this is probably, if we think about this today, this is like the 15 to 18 year kind of period where they're finally they're moving into more vocation. They probably left home usually at this time for apprenticeship, living somewhere else. They're learning a craft, and then they're going to move into this sort of adventuring area. So aunt and siblings, let's say me, get me apprenticed to a caravan master. So then, right, we got an apprentice to a caravan master. We kind of picked up those porter and teamster things, like how to chart a caravan, how to take care of the animals and the vehicles, and dealing with the people, and making sure that stuff get there in a timely fashion, everybody's safe, everybody, we don't have a lot of damage to the items and transport, things like that. Picking up that animal handling and that medicine, land vehicles, picking up dice games, being a little bit more social. And then, of course, ending with us getting sort of like the formal guild membership. Right, we did a lot of manual activity, right? A lot of manual labor involved, and a lot of travel. Building that strength and stamina, moving heavy loads, loading and unloading stuff. Walking a lot. Showing an aptitude for medicine healing. Oh, before I forget it. Hey. Got a horse. I didn't write it down. Oh no! That's good. I'll write it down here. Allies and organization, character backstory, under here. So, we got a horse. By the way, we have a riding horse. I'm going to assume with tacking gear, not just the horse by itself. We also have our hobo going. Horse, it has a skull. It has a skull and guild symbol on reverse. But these can't around the edge. Right, we're like, is this the assassin yet? Question mark? Okay. And then we have them, we sort of move them into the adventure thing. So they're kind of off doing their own thing, right? They're doing their caravanning. So sort of 19 to present. So, right, we know that our character's a little bit older. I mean, still relatively young. Right, 29-ish. So if you think about it, they've got, about 10 years of sort of professional experience. In which they sort of were doing the guild thing and then probably working as journeymen for a caravan, then maybe leading some caravans, and then we see them sort of like begin to show that they're good at their job, and they break a little notoriety, right? They break that local legend for carrying weight or time. Well, this was specifically for strength, right? For carrying weight. This might be like a Highland Games situation. Do we want to do that? Maybe not. We'll see. So they broke the local record, whether that's time for carrying stuff or maybe log throwing or whatever it is. It's related. Basically, it's strength. some sort of feat. I'll say that, feat of strength. Because they have an 18 strength, so they are stronger than most people in the world. Right, and they do that, right? We see them sort of like lose that baby fat. Yeah, so let's basically technically put this under here. Because I think I'm going to move that a little bit, so we see them, I mean, I guess. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just kind of showing it. So I broke that little effort. You know, we're getting a lot more experience about negotiating and let's say conversation or diplomacy. I just learned how to be able to be more of a talker and kind of hold a pleasant conversation with people of all sorts of backgrounds, right? Being always able to start up or hold a conversation, but it's not like particularly charismatic, but is, you know, competent and easy to talk to. Which is definitely a new thing for them, right? As a kid, they were definitely not that. But then, you know, trying to do their own thing, right? You're just gonna have to learn how to do that if you're gonna be successful. Then we learned that, right, they became a ranger to sort of like guide people. They were helping, doing the sort of like the hireling thing for adventurers, and then they kind of transitioned into just kind of doing it themselves, right? Instead of being the middleman. It'd be like, in a lot of those sort of situations, you're like, I'm taking on a big portion of the risk and not getting as much of the reward out of it. So why don't I, instead of working for somebody else, I'm gonna work for myself. Smaller pie, but you get a bigger slice of it. Sort of situation. Right, kind of inside, like, they pick up the insight, they pick up the perception. They're much better at survival now, because right, if you're working as a hireling for adventurers, you're going off-road, right? You're staying to the normal sort of like trade, caravan trails and roads, byways. So instead, that survival aspect becomes a lot more important. And then our little extra bits here. So we do know that they succeeded in casting a spell from a spell scroll. That to me feels like it falls under I'm gonna take this maiden enemy of a ranger, and I'm gonna put this in the apprenticeship one. Right, maiden enemy of an adventurer, and I'm going to couple that with succeeded in casting a spell scroll. And put that down here. Let's see. So I get the idea that maybe this is like a third or fourth level, let's see. This is maybe like a, you know, yeah, probably closer to like a fourth level ranger, and you know, they're like, oh, this, you know, this, our character, as a, you know, relatively younger person, is asking them, you know, adventurers, tell me your stories, and all these sorts of things. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to cast using these spell scrolls. It's like, oh, you can cast magic through it? It's like, yeah, well, not everybody can do it. You know, you have to be sort of like magically inclined to do that, and I think they're just like joshing around and being like, oh yeah, and you know, I dare you to try it. Like, oh, well, put some money on the table or something like that to try it, and knowing that, you know, most people can't cast spell scrolls unless you're a magic user who can cast that spell. and then then our character takes it and reads the incantation, is able to activate the spell, and it goes off, which is going to cost them anywhere between, depending on the level of the spell, somewhere between 50 gold plus, which is a lot of money for a normal person. So kind of did them dirty. I kind of want to say it's a second level spell, which would make the ranger even madder because it's not something they could probably cast at that time. Yeah, let's do that. From I'm gonna say second level spell scroll. Which cost them, about, not dollar sign, about 250 G. Right, that's about how much an uncommon spell scroll costs, which is level 2 up. So to try to do, they were probably doing like a 5 gold dare or something like that, like bet. Let's say that on a bet, not a dare, a bet. Right, ended up casting that spell, which cost that ranger a bunch of money, and they're upset about that, and they're holding that grudge about that. But they're blameless, right? Our character is blameless in that we did exactly what we said we were going to do. All right, so married. So maybe I'll put married under apprenticeship. No, I guess it makes more sense. Well, let's figure out where we're going to put this rogue. I think the rogue makes sense mostly in the adventure side. We could tie this together with the riding horse, maybe. Well, alright. So here's an idea. Where are we going to put the marriage? Because that'll make a big dependence. Because we could actually put it. I said it'd be silly to put it in childhood, but there are such things as like arranged marriages, which might be common. So let's maybe just roll a d4. Maybe a lot of these life examples are actually from later in life, which would be kind of natural. 3, okay. So we'll just stick it in there. So then this will go in apprenticeship. Under adventuring. Where do we put the riding horse? We could put that pretty young. But a bunch of time has passed, or else the riding horse aspect of it needs to be relatively recently. Maybe that's just something that we toss into the adventurer side, I think. Like, this is it's probably the most recent event. I think that makes sense. And we already did this. We already took care of all this stuff. We don't need that anymore. And we made an enemy of an adventurer. That probably makes most sense in the adventure. But maybe, I mean, we could do it as young as, like, adolescence, right? But why would the adventurer be out there? You know? Don't want to spend too much time in the way backstory stuff. I mean, they're an elf, so they've been around for a long time. Potentially. We also don't know why yet. I think for me it makes the most amount of sense to also put this in the adventurer tier. I'd like to put it earlier, but I think it doesn't make sense to try to figure out what that wrong might have been. We can add age in here. Right? I thought there was a spot for age. Maybe down here. Oh yeah, there it is. Hmm. Yeah, we'll just do it that way. So he's 42, which means he's kind of like 29-ish. In like human years. So he's sort of like becoming like a real adult now, right? We know that we really don't really sort of reach. True humans don't really like reach their growth potential until like, was it 26, 27, something like that? So he really is just now like becoming an adult, like physically and mentally maturing. Alright, so we don't need that. So I don't need this section down here yet. And then we can do we'll do the backstory narrative, where I type out all this stuff, and then I will sort of send it to the DM to just kind of get their intel and stuff. Should we figure out why? Is there a random table for that? I wonder if he has a random table for that. Let's I think we can go in here, and I think there's something that's random. Parody, adventure ideas? Well, that's a lot of them. We have 99. Let's see, other things. Boons, campaign start scenarios. Something in here? Character backgrounds. I was trying to think of something that I don't think there's going to be one that's just going to give me sort of like, why is this person upset with you? So what would we have done that got in the way of a rogue? I wonder if it's literally as simple as we saw the rogue take something. We just reported him as a thief. That would be very funny. Like, it's so mundane. Like, oh yeah, no, I definitely saw that guy steal something. And then that person just holds it over their head. I kind of like that. It's so bland that it's funny. Like, as player character adventurers, why would you even care about something like that? Why would you take the time to figure out who saw you and track them down and be upset with them? Yeah. Let's just say reported them for something stupid like petty theft, right? What do we think is petty theft in this world? I think something that's it's got to be inconsequential. Let's just say theft. Put them for theft. Put them for theft. And witness 2 there. Right, testified. Yeah, so reported them for theft and testified at their trial. Oh yeah, no, I definitely saw that guy steal the thing. So we are to blame, but we are just acting as a normal person, and our rogue elf is upset about that. I like that. It's very petty. It's very silly. It seems like definitely something a rogue who's doing things like committing petty theft would be upset about. Oh, what level should they be? Maybe I'll leave that up to the DM. I was gonna roll for it, but you know what? I think we're gonna leave that up to the DM. So yeah, I think that's everything that we need to know about this. So we're gonna have a really interesting character. So I'll type this up, obviously, to be a little bit of a narrative. But as we can see, we've got a pretty strong basis about like what this character's gone through before they became an adventurer, kind of why they've become an adventurer, and the sort of things that are important to them. So, you know, taking care of people and taking care of animals, especially out in the wilderness, you know, helping out those who need help, but also has this very sort of by the books good nature to them, being like reporting this rogue elf probably at a town that, you know, they're not from, and just getting them in trouble and getting them testified over something that, and then this gonna be held over their head, but also have a bunch of this weird undercurrent dark side. Like we have, what, 3 people in their life that are just missing? Right? We have a parent who's disappeared to an unknown fate, a sibling that's disappeared to an unknown fate, and a spouse that's disappeared to an unknown fate. So there's also this weird, creeping, dark undertone to it. And our character being the one point of consistency in those 3 people's disappearances. Well, I mean, his siblings too, but specifically him, with his spouse. Being like, I don't know, man, there's something weird and dodgy about that character. And then maybe the DM will come back to me and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more, and we'll make a decision about how much of his knowledge that we want to incorporate into that situation. Like, how much does he know about it? Is he the person who disappeared people? That could make a very weird and twisted, almost like Dexter-esque background for a character. Like if he was the one who's disappearing people. And loved ones at that. Oh, that's very dark, sociopathic route I want to go down. I'm not sure I want to go down that for this character, but that is possibility, I suppose. I mean, maybe we don't do that, but you know, it is a possibility. But I'm not sure I want it to be that grim and dark. It'd be hard to keep him in the party once that gets revealed. The party members. But that's everything for building this character. I hope you guys see how really cool it is to be able to spend a little extra time kind of working out these backstory stuff, like doing the mechanics part, like actually just throwing stuff on the character sheet. Like that's super easy, right? Even with this, that's a slightly more complex character, because there's going to be some stuff that I'm going to try to swap out with the DM, because I have a bunch of redundancies and stuff, and that's just because of dwarves being dwarves, and why we don't play them, or at least I don't play them that much in 5e, unfortunately, because I've got to do a lot of work to make the most out of them. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and start using stuff like this, like the Xanathar's Guide, and building out some of the, trying to tie that to specific time frames and like what's going on in their lives, and asking some other questions. I also have a blog over on reddragonfiend.com. You can search for it, find it very easily, where I talk about character backstory questions. I have a handful of questions I typically ask players of their characters before the campaign, like, hey, the sort of stuff that by doing this process kind of implicitly I get the answers to. But when other people's characters, I want to know things like, you know, why did you quit what you were doing, your background to become an adventurer, right? Are you running, usually it's like, are you running towards something? Do you have a very specific goal you're trying to go after? Or you're running away from something like some sort of debt or personal tragedy or backstory or something that you're trying to separate yourself from. Like in this character, we know that right? They are certainly motivated by sort of like that independent spirit. They have that wanderlust, but they also saw like lucrative. It's a lucrative field that they learned from sort of like being a hireling for other adventurers, and sort of getting into adventuring that way, rather than like somebody who's like a folk hero or something like that, where they do something in their backstory and that sort of like makes a tick in the box of like, oh, this person is meant for greater things, right? So this is instead of more sort of like just jobbed his way into it, just goes from jobber to full time. But yeah, no, this is a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun. I enjoy building characters this way. I know it takes a little bit longer, right? It takes a lot longer than just kind of throwing things together in D&D Beyond or another character builder. But this is, you can do a very similar process for basically any game. It doesn't have to be D&D. But it is a fun thing to sort of like make these considerations, think about it, work them into the backstory, and then you can kind of show up to a new campaign, a campaign that I know is probably going to be going on for a while. So I don't feel bad about spending this much time on like background. Like I feel like I'll be able to get quite a bit of this into the narrative of the game itself. This game's really good about sort of working that sort of stuff in. But hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. I certainly have. We usually do these streams on Saturdays, which are mornings for me, but where you are in the world, well, it could be really early or really late, or not even the same day. So it's kind of hard to give you a schedule. As far as East Coast US, it's probably the easiest to get here and see the live streams on Saturdays at about 11 a.m. That's usually about when I start. So that's 10, 9, 8, so Central Mountain Pacific, right? So 8 a.m. Pacific, which is a little early for the West Coast. But then we kind of go on. So if you want to check out the live stream, that's the easiest way to do it. We'll jump back in and probably do the solo RPG next time. Or if you want to catch up on this and anything else, you can always check out all the videos on the channel. And that's going to be it for me. This is a lot of fun, and I'll see you guys next time. Alright? Bye.